Chapter 909. After the beast horde retreated, Su Xiaoma knelt on the ground. This puzzled the elders. After all, this lad was so courageous in the Cloud Ridge mountain range. Why would he be so scared that he couldn't even stand properly in such a situation? Although Sun Yingquan and the other 3 outer sect disciples were also terrified, they could at least stand after the danger was over. They were just praising him as a good seedling worth nurturing. In the end, he did such a thing. The 4 elders couldn't help but feel disappointed. Xia Shuiyun's eyes were filled with complicated emotions. During this period, she had been helping Su Xiaoma both openly and secretly. Wasn't it because of his performance in the Cloud Ridge mountain range? The danger level this time was far less than the previous time. But he was still so scared that he knelt on the ground. Xia Shuiyun almost walked up and gave him a slap. Su Jintang, you disappoint me too much. Although Sun Yingquan was usually a little profligate, he knew that Go Sheng's actions would make the elders unhappy. In the worst case, it could affect his future. Hence, he hurriedly said in a low voice, "Hurry and stand up." But not only did that lad not hear him, he even kowtowed and cried until his eyes were blurry. He even shouted Jie. Sun Yingquan was stunned. The 4 disappointed elders were also stunned. He called out, "Master?" Xia Shuiyun's complicated eyes gradually turned into surprise. This silver-haired old man, who scared the beast horde away the moment he appeared, was his master? My master is old man Jun Tian. He lives in seclusion in the mountains. Su Xiaoma's words rang in her ears. Xia Shuiyun instantly confirmed the old man's identity. The 4 elders also came to a realization. So this lad didn't kneel on the ground because he was scared. It was because he met his master that he couldn't help but kneel. A teacher for a day, a father for life. A disciple kneeling to his master was definitely in accordance with etiquette. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. Seeing Su Xiaoma kneeling in front of him with tears streaming down his face, especially the excitement in his eyes, Jun Changshao couldn't help but sigh in his heart. My disciple's acting skills have been passed down by me. As a professional actor, he liked to meet these types of actors because they were definitely better than celebrities who only knew how to use numbers as their lines. Jun Changshao was fully immersed in his role. He smiled amiably and said, "Little Go Sheng, it's been a few years since we parted ways. I didn't expect to meet you again at the Golden Scale Mountain." He really wanted to rush over and kick Su Xiaoma down the mountain. Of all the names you could come up with as a spy, you just had to use my nickname. Do you know how many readers will laugh at you if you shout it out like that? Jun Changshao knew the name Su Jintang. But since they were master and disciple, calling him Go Sheng was definitely more intimate than calling him Jintang. "Master," Su Xiaoma cried. "Why did you leave without saying goodbye back then? Did I do something wrong?" "Fuck. This doesn't seem to be part of the script." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "I've taught you everything I can. Whether you can achieve more in the future will depend on your own efforts. Back then, I was young and ignorant and ran away from home in the Su family. If I didn't meet you by chance in the wilderness, I'm afraid I would have been fed to the ferocious beasts." Su Xiaoma cried more and more as he left. He said, "So I don't care about my future achievements. I only want to serve you for the rest of my life." The 4 elders of the Taishan Xingzong fell silent. A half-saint who practiced both sword and martial arts could be considered one of the top masters. Hugging his thigh was a wise choice. If they had such a master when they were young, they definitely wouldn't have left. Jun Changshao said, "I'm used to living a carefree life. You'll only delay your future if you follow me." "Patriarch," Su Xiaoma transmitted his voice. "Hurry up and help me up." Swish! Jun Changshao waved his sleeves, and a burst of spiritual energy instantly lifted him up. He said, "Judging from your clothes, you seem to have joined the sect?" "Yes." An elder hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Jintang is now an outer disciple of the Taishan Xingzong. This kind of half-saint who practiced sword and martial arts must be polite, not to mention that he helped them resolve the crisis." "Taishan Xingzong?" Jun Changshao was silent for a moment before saying, "This old master has heard a little about this sect. I even met Li Mu Ran once in the past." The 4 elders' faces suddenly changed. Even the outer sect disciples widened their eyes. "Li Muran, a senior master of the Taishan Xingzong. In terms of identity, the current patriarch should be called Grand Master. Amazing, amazing! Su Xiaoma secretly admired. Patriarch is actually related to the deceased Taishan Xingzong ancestor. Go Sheng had done his homework on this first-class sect, so he naturally knew some well-known masters. The reason why he said Li Muran was that he was already dead, and they couldn't find him even if they wanted to. It turns out that senior and the deceased ancestor of the Taishan Xingzong knew each other. Deceased, Jun Changshao said in surprise. Li Muran died? The elder said sadly. Grand Elder couldn't pry into the higher level of martial arts and died of old age. Alas, Jun Changshao sighed and said, when we met, he was only 30 or 40 years old. Now he is separated by life and death. It's really a pity. Hearing his words, several elders secretly said, Grand Elder was only 30 or 40 years old at that time. It seems that this person is not young. My disciple's aptitude is not outstanding, but he has a strong mind and great perseverance. Please take care of him, and give him more guidance in the future, Jun Changshao said. Taishan Xingzong would definitely pay more attention to him. After all, he had a master who had reached the level of semi-sage, and was a master of sword and martial arts. He had a strong background. Girl. Jun Changshao turned his head and said, although the sword art you just performed is elegant and flexible, there is a problem in the convergence of spiritual power. You must correct it as soon as possible, or it will hurt your meridians if you perform it too much. Xia Shuiyan's bright eyes were full of astonishment. She had been practicing a certain ice sword art of Taishan Xingzong. Although she had comprehended it, she always felt that it was not smooth when she performed it recently, and it occasionally affected her meridians. At first, she didn't care about it, and even thought that she might not have fully grasped the sword art. Now, after hearing Su Jintang's master's words, Xia Shuiyan suddenly realized that there was a deviation in her cultivation. True martial artists didn't need others to go through the trouble of giving them a detailed explanation. Sometimes, just a single sentence would be enough to clear their doubts. The four elders were shocked. Su Gosheng's master was not only a semi-sage who cultivated both sword and martial arts, but he was also a top-notch martial arts master. He could see the shortcomings of other people's martial arts with just the naked eye. Awesome. Too awesome. Use the insight talisman to understand. Xia Shuiyan cupped her hands and said, thank you for your guidance, senior. Little Gosheng. Jun Changshao looked at Su Xiaoma and said, Taishan Xingzong is one of the top sects in Jianghu. Since you can enter the sect, it is a great opportunity. You must cultivate diligently in the future. Su Xiaoma wiped away the tears on his face and said with a firm gaze, this disciple will obey master's orders. The four of you, Jun Changshao said. This old man still has to chase after that evil beast. In order to avoid harming any living creatures, I will take my leave first. This sentence meant to tell the Taishan Xingzong elders that he came to save them, because he was coincidentally chasing after the spiritual beast. Master. Su Xiaoma had just opened his mouth when Jun Changshao had already left. He couldn't hold back his emotions and cried loudly. This disciple will definitely not disappoint master. I will definitely become an indomitable expert. There was no reply. Obviously, he had already left. An expert. After Jun Changshao left, the four elders were still in shock. They were still thinking about the scene of the spiritual beast being chased away with just a glance. Sun Yingquan quietly walked over and said in a low voice, Go Sheng, so you have such an awesome master. The other three outer sect disciples all looked at him with envy. Let's go back to the sect. The four Taishan Xingzong elders were injured, and the appearance of the powerful spiritual beast and the beast horde had also disrupted their plans. Therefore, they didn't stop to bring the disciples back. Of course, they also planned to inform the higher-ups of Gosheng's master as soon as possible. Xiaomu. On the mountain peak's boulder, Changshao spread his legs and said with a disrespectful look, This lord personally came out to help you put on a show. I should be promoted to an inner sect disciple soon. On the way back to the sect, Su Xiaoma secretly admired. The patriarch's acting is still the best. especially when he inadvertently gave Xia Shuiyan pointers on martial arts. He definitely brought the unworldly expert to life. Thinking about how the Purple King acted to the point that he almost couldn't take it, he felt a strong sense of disdain again. This actor was too trashy. Gosheng. Sun Yingquan leaned over and whispered, "This master of yours is definitely not an ordinary person. He even saved everyone. When you return to the sect, you will definitely be taken care of by the elders." Su Xiaoma scratched his head and said, "I also didn't expect to meet Master on Golden Scale Mountain." Taishin Xingzong. After Su Xiaoma returned, he entered the Spirit Qi Array to comprehend the array formation as usual. In the main hall, the higher-ups had already started discussing after hearing about what happened on Golden Scale Mountain. Su Jintang's master is so strong? He's actually a half-sage dual cultivator, Third Elder said in shock. In terms of cultivation level, Wu Sheng was definitely stronger than a half-sage. However, dual cultivation of sword and martial arts was originally slow. Even if he wasn't as good as Wu Sheng, he was definitely very impressive. Since ancient times, the spirit qi of heaven and earth had gradually withered. The number of experts who had reached this level could be counted with 5 fingers. The elder who personally experienced it said, "The aura that Go Sheng's master released at that time clearly had the thickness of the martial Dao and the sharpness of the sword Dao. He's definitely a half-sage dual cultivator." Old man Jun Tian. Third Elder frowned and said, "I've never heard of such a person in the Falling Star continent." When they first learned about Su Xiaoma's master, they didn't pay much attention to it. They just thought that he was a recluse. Now that they knew his strength, they naturally had to treat him seriously. Third Elder. That elder said, "Old man Jun Tian and the young Grand Elderly had the fate of meeting once." What? Third Elder and the others widened their eyes. Li Mu Ran had been dead for hundreds of years. When he was young, he had to be at least a few years old. Old man Jun Tian had the fate of meeting him once, which meant that he was an old expert. No wonder Su Jintang could advance by leaps and bounds in such a short time after becoming my Taishin Xingzong's disciple. It turns out that he has such an outstanding senior master. Third Elder came to a realization. Elder Sun said, "In my opinion, old man Jun Tian being able to save him is probably also on account of his disciple." That makes sense. Everyone expressed their agreement. Recluse experts generally didn't get involved in the world. The chances of them saving someone when they were in danger were very low. So he definitely had a purpose for helping this time. Could it be that he was telling them to treat his disciple well? Third Elder thought seriously and said, "Su Jintang is one of the inner sect members this time. Does anyone have any objections?" No objections. Since there are no objections, it's settled. Also, Sixth Elder, arrange an independent courtyard for Su Jintang first. Okay. On the same day, Su Xiaoma moved into the courtyard. In the Taishin Shengzong, having one's own courtyard was definitely the treatment of an inner sect member. After many outer sect disciples heard the news, they unanimously agreed that Su Jintang's promotion to the inner sect was already set in stone. He was promoted to the inner sect not long after entering the sect, which immediately made many people envious. Patriarch. Standing outside the courtyard door with the word Earth written on it, Su Xiaoma thought to himself, "This disciple is once again close to entering the inner circle of Taishin Shengzong disciples." The real reason he came to Taishin Shengzong as a spy was to find out about eldest senior sister, and Fang Lingyu. But there was no way to find out from the outer sect. Only by entering the inner sect could he come into contact with them. And, suddenly, Su Xiaoma turned his head and saw Xia Shuiyan standing at the entrance of the neighboring courtyard. "Senior sister, why are you here?" "The place where I live." Su Xiaoma was stunned. He actually became neighbors with her. "Elder Wei, how did the situation change?" "I'm urgently waiting online." Sect of all times. After hearing Li Luochio's report, Jun Changshao smiled and said, "Looks like my identity as old man Jun Tian is quite useful." Patriarch. Li Luochio didn't understand. Xiaomu is a spy in Taishin Xingzong. Although he's getting better and better, what's the point? There's a point. Jun Changshao said. A top sect's foundation is still very strong. Only by getting better and better can one come into contact with more things. For example, some martial arts secret manuals that are very difficult to learn outside. Li Luoqiu didn't understand. Our sect of all times martial arts aren't inferior to Taishan Shengzong. That was true, but the technique pavilion lacked all kinds of martial arts techniques. If Su Xiaoma could obtain more types of martial arts techniques from Taishan Shengzong, wouldn't he be able to use them to make up the numbers? Moreover, a top sect would definitely have a complete management system. If Su Xiaoma got into the core circle and sent information over, he could use it as a reference to make up for the shortcomings of the sect of all times. Ever since Jun Changshao became the leader of a sect, all his development methods were supported by the tools given by the system. To be able to reach his current level was equivalent to cheating. It was inevitable that he would feel a sense of emptiness. If he could obtain information about management from a top sect, and then use a method that was beneficial to him as a reference, it would be very practical. Actually, the Taishan Shengzong's inner and outer sect settings were much more professional than the sect of all times. Not only did Jun Changshao have plans to follow suit, he also decided to set up the inner and outer sect on separate peaks. Alright, when will the Wind Patriarch send the oars over? They're already on the way. Jun Changshao left the main hall and went to a few peaks to inspect. The construction progress was very good. The main hall of the Drizzle Hall on the Drizzle Peak had already been completed. There were also side rooms and rooms for the members to live in. Li Qingyang's design philosophy had always emphasized man and nature. Therefore, the buildings were all surrounded by mountains and forests, appearing very otherworldly. Of course, for such a big project, the money was spent very quickly. Patriarch. Li Qingyang held the list of bills and said, "Just the construction of the Drizzle Peak alone has already cost 5 million. Jun Changshao said, "Housing is an important thing in life. It doesn't matter how much you spend." Chapter 910. After the incident at Golden Scale Mountain, Su Xiaoma's status in the Taishan Shengzong had improved significantly. He was even given his own courtyard. As long as he performed well, it would not be a problem for him to become an inner disciple. However, he was a little nervous about becoming neighbors with Xia Shuiyan. He carefully recalled the emotional guidance that Elder Wei had given him, and thought about how to approach her. Junior brother. On the way to the cafeteria, Sun Yingquan put his hand on his shoulder and said with a smile, "Your status in the outer disciples is getting higher and higher. I'll follow you from now on." Su Xiaoma said, "Senior brother, you're joking again." "I'm not joking," Sun Yingquan said seriously. "When you become an inner disciple, I'll have to follow you because your status is higher than that of an outer disciple. I'll have to call you senior brother from now on." In the Taishan Shengzong system, the outer disciples had to address the inner disciples as senior brother regardless of the time they entered the sect. Of course, the inner disciples were special not only in terms of address, but also in their own cafeteria, courtyard, guidance from elders and cultivation facilities. Although the outer disciples and inner disciples only differed by one word, the treatment was worlds apart. Many outer disciples racked their brains to become inner disciples because their aptitude was limited, and they could only break through to Wuzong's level. If they entered the inner disciples, their upper limit would be Martial King, or even higher. Senior brother's son will always be senior brother. Whether I become an inner disciple or a direct disciple, this will never change, Su Xiaoma said. With his current status in the outer disciples, there was no need for him to deliberately flatter Sun Yingquan. However, his father was an elder, so he would naturally try to curry favor with him. Ha ha ha. Sun Yingquan patted him on the shoulder and said, "I'm very happy to hear that. Look, it's senior sister Fang." Suddenly someone shouted. It immediately attracted the attention of the outer disciples, who were heading to the cafeteria. They all turned their heads to look. Senior sister Fang? Could it be Fang Lingyu? Su Xiaoma looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a graceful girl in a red school uniform walking side by side with Xia Shuiyan on the winding path. This woman was in her early 20s. She had a pair of eyes that exuded a faint sense of arrogance. She was like the daughter of a wealthy family. Her appearance was also not bad. She could be considered a femme fatale. Senior apprentice brother, Su Xiaoma said in a low voice. Who is walking with Xia Shuiyin? Sun Yingquan said. Personal disciple Fang Lingyu. True enough. It was this woman. It had been more than a year since Su Xiaoma came to Taishan Shengzong as an undercover agent. This was the first time he met the main character. Due to the grudge between her and eldest senior sister, she couldn't help but compare the two of them. In the end, she came to the conclusion that even though this woman's looks weren't bad, she was still a far cry from eldest senior sister. Especially when she was clearly exuding an aura of arrogance and coldness that seemed to have been added onto her body. Yet she was wearing a red school uniform. Didn't she feel that it was very out of place? Wait, Su Xiaoma said to himself. Eldest senior sister once said that she hated red. Could it have something to do with the clothes this woman is wearing? Junior apprentice brother. Sun Yingquan hurriedly pulled his cuff and whispered. This woman is highly valued by the group of elders in the sect. She has a very high status, and is very arrogant. Don't look at her for too long, lest you get into trouble. It was too late. Fang Lingyu, who was talking with Xia Shuiyin, had already found that Su Xiaoma had been looking at her all the time. Her pretty face suddenly turned cold. We are in trouble. Sun Yingquan hurriedly pulled him away. Stop. Fang Lingyu said. Although it sounded a little crisp, it was quite arrogant. As the most valued core disciple of Taishan Shengzong, it was normal for her to be noble and arrogant in every word and deed. Sun Yingquan smiled and said, Senior sister Fang, what's the matter? Fang Lingyu walked over and stopped in front of the two. She said lightly, It's none of your business. Get lost. Damn it. In any case, I still have an elder as my father. You actually told me to scram in front of so many people. This is not giving me any face at all. Any man could not help it. So Sun Yingquan said angrily, I will get lost. Whoosh. He instantly disappeared in front of Fang Lingyu. Su Xiaoma could only express her respect for such a cowardly and courageous act by breaking down. You, Fang Lingyu said lightly, you are Su Jintang? That's right. Su Xiaoma said without changing his expression. Sun Yingquan could be cowardly, but he could not. After all, he was not a high-level elder of the sect. Shui Yin, Fang Lingyu said, you are destined to become a personal disciple in the future. It is better to avoid contact with such ordinary disciples as much as possible, lest others secretly gossip about you. Senior sister, I have nothing to do with him, Xia Shuiyin said while giving Su Xiaoma a look from behind, as if hinting for him to leave quickly. The two of them had worked together many times during this period of time, and had naturally built a little bit of tacit understanding. However, Su Xiaoma acted as if he did not see it. He said, Senior sister Fang, are you saying that I, Su Jintang, am not worthy of sister Xia? Xia Shuiyin was stunned. Sun Yingquan, who had rolled far away, was also stunned. Damn it. This guy was a bit arrogant. He actually dared to argue with senior sister Fang in public. Fang Lingyu was also very surprised that an outer sect disciple would say such words in front of her. So she said disdainfully, remove the word seems. Of course, she added. Although your master has some ability, his aptitude, strength, and even appearance are not worthy of junior sister Xia in any way. Senior sister Fang. Xia Shuiyin was just about to speak when she was stopped by Fang Lingyu. Fang Lingyu said, in the future don't bother her again. I also don't want to hear any more rumors from the sect. The first half of her words were just a bit arrogant, but the second half was obviously a warning. Damn it. Sun Yingquan, who was hiding in the distance, cursed in his heart. If Lu Qianqian hadn't been expelled, how could you have been promoted so smoothly? How could you have become a personal disciple who was heavily nurtured? How could you be strutting around here? Yes. Su Xiaoma lowered his head and said, Sister Xia is a proud daughter of the heavens. How could I, Su Xiaoma, be worthy of her? It's best that you know your place. Fang Lingyu said indifferently, Junior sister Xia, let's go. Xia Shuiyin looked at Su Xiaoma apologetically, then followed her senior sister and left. As expected, junior sister Xia and senior sister Fang are related. The two of them cultivated together when they were young, and they both have ice physiques. Gou Sheng has been very close to junior sister Xia these days. Senior sister Fang couldn't stand it, so she specially came from the inner sect to teach him a lesson. Everyone whispered, looking at Su Xiaoma, who kept his head down. A bit of sympathy appeared in their eyes. However, being reprimanded by the sect's most valued personal disciple didn't seem to be a shameful thing. Gou Sheng, Sun Yingquan rolled back and said with a smile, "Come, let's go eat." Swoosh. Suddenly, Su Xiaoma pushed away the hand on his shoulder, then raised his head with clenched fists and shouted, "Xia Shuiyan, I, Su Jintang, am not worthy of you now, but that doesn't mean I won't be worthy of you in the future." The outer sect disciples who were about to go eat stopped in their tracks when they heard his sudden shout, and turned their heads with an expression of disbelief. Sun Yingquan, who was the closest, also widened his eyes. Xia Shuiyan, who hadn't gone far, stopped in her tracks, and her eyes were also filled with surprise. "Listen carefully," Su Xiaoma said loudly. "One day, I will let everyone in the sect think that I, Su Jintang, am worthy of you, Xia Shuiyan." He had just been warned by Fang Lingyu, but he still dared to say such words. This was really awesome. Yes, Sun Yingquan finally acted like a man under Gou Sheng's provocation. He shouted with a red face and a thick neck, "Su Jintang will definitely be worthy of Xia Shuiyan. I, Sun Yingquan, swear on my life today. Brother, don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, I'll always support you. Junior sister." Fang Lingyu's bright eyes gradually turned cold, and she said, "This guy is a little annoying." "Senior sister," Xia Shuiyan frowned and said, "This is between me and him. Can you not get involved?" Chapter 9:11. Have you heard? Senior sister Fang came out of the inner sect and went to teach Su Jintang a lesson. It seems to be because he and junior sister Xia have been very close recently. Senior sister Fang is a very temperamental person, and she is very proud. She must have humiliated Su Jintang a lot. She did humiliate him, but guess what that guy said in the end? What did he say? He openly shouted to Xia Shuiyan that he is not good enough for her now, but he will be good enough for her in the future. Damn, is he confessing to junior sister Xia? Senior sister Fang was beside him at that time. I heard that her face turned green with anger. If junior sister Xia had not stopped him, that guy would have been in trouble. In the outer sect of Taishan Shengzong, the disciples were discussing what happened outside the canteen yesterday. They could not help but admire Su Jintang for daring to confront the most important direct disciple. The elders had also heard about this matter, but they did not care. After all, the sect allowed the disciples to fall in love, so they naturally would not interfere with their emotional problems. Sigh. Su Xiaoma sat in the stone pavilion in the courtyard and sighed deeply. After sleeping and thinking about what happened yesterday, it seemed that he was a little emotional. As a spy, his psychological quality must be strong. But in the face of Fang Lingyu's verbal humiliation, he lost his cool and said those words impulsively. He was a man. It was understandable. If it were Jun Changshao, he would definitely roll his sexy eyes and say indifferently, "If you are not good enough for her, then so be it. I am too lazy to be good enough for her." Reader, with this guy's attributes, he can definitely say it. In fact, in terms of aptitude, realm, physique, and even original appearance, Su Xiaoma was good in all aspects. If there was a flaw, it would be that he was short. But compared to the 1.8-meter tall guys like Jun Changshao, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and Yi Xingchen, he was considered tall in the outer sect of Taishan Shengzong. He was at least 1.8-meter tall. Not to mention Xia Shuiyan, he was more than enough to be good enough for Fang Lingyu. "Papa," Su Xiaoma hurriedly dispelled the idea and said, "Just one look at that arrogant woman irritates me. Even if she were to offer herself to me, I wouldn't care." Ha ha ha. At this moment, Sun Yingquan walked in from outside and laughed. "Gou Sheng, you were a real man yesterday." Su Xiaoma said bitterly. "I also offended senior sister Fang." "Don't be afraid," Sun Yingquan said. "As long as you don't do anything wrong, she can't do anything to you." Su Xiaoma knew this. However, that woman was after all a highly regarded direct disciple. Once he entered the inner sect, he was afraid that he would have a hard time. Ah! Su Xiaoma pulled at his hair and howled in his heart. It's a mess, it's a mess. In his plan, he would sneak into the inner sect circle and continue to flatter them. He would first make friends with a few inner sect disciples. And it would be perfect if he could come into contact with Fang Lingyu. But now, he had offended that woman before he even entered the inner sect. This undoubtedly raised the ordinary undercover path to difficult mode instantly. Sigh. Now he could only take one step at a time. Go Sheng boldly pursued Xia Shuiyin. Senior brother will always support you, Sun Yingquan said. In fact, after interacting with him for a long time, this guy seemed a little unreliable, but he was actually quite a good person. At least, he treated Su Xiaoma as a brother. To be honest, in a large sect with a strong foundation, there was no lack of schemes and deception, but it was not that exaggerated. At least there was a harmonious atmosphere. Thinking about the kind of things where the protagonist entered the sect, he was attacked by the outer sect disciples, then the inner sect disciples, and finally the elders were in the minority. We can't deny the whole world, just because of a few special cases. Senior brother, Su Xiaoma said bitterly. With my strength and aptitude, how can I be worthy of her? Fuck. Sun Yingquan said. Why are you self-destructing again? Before he could finish the word, he suddenly stopped because Xia Shuiyin had already appeared in front of the door. Her eyes flashed with coldness, as if she was saying to himself, this has nothing to do with you. Get lost. Damn it. He had no dignity left. Junior brother, I still have something to do. I'll leave first. As Sun Yingquan spoke, he had already jumped over the wall with a whoosh. He was even faster than yesterday. Su Xiaoma sat in the stone pavilion, and Xia Shuiyin stood in front of the door. The two of them were about 10 meters away from each other. The atmosphere was slightly awkward, because they did not speak to each other. This kind of situation often happened when they were doing missions together. Su Xiaoma should have been used to it, but for some reason, he suddenly felt a little nervous and apprehensive. I've said it before. Xia Shuiyin was silent for a long time before saying, it's not that you're not worthy of me, but that I'm not interested in romantic relationships. Yes, she really said it. At that time, Su Xiaoma's answer was that he was also not interested in romantic relationships. However, this time he seemed to have made up his mind and said, but I'm interested in you now. Jungo Sheng, come out and take a beating. A strange look flashed in Xia Shuiyin's eyes. She said, our minds should be on the martial path now, not on relationships. Su Xiaoma said, humiliating me in front of so many people, no man can take it lying down. I'm sorry, Xia Shuiyin said apologetically. I didn't expect senior sister Fang to be so against you. Su Xiaoma smiled bitterly, and then said with a sad expression, before I met Shizuan, I was already used to this kind of thing. Used to it? Xia Shuiyin said in surprise. You've been rejected by many girls. Su Xiaoma, who had just brewed his emotions, suddenly twitched the corner of his mouth, and then shook his head. What right do I have to pursue girls as a lowly person like me? Xia Shuiyin understood. The habit, he said, was because of his identity. He was often ridiculed and humiliated, and not because he was rejected again and again when he chased girls. At this time, some readers may think that Su Xiaoma was acting, but in fact, he was revealing his true feelings. His background was indeed not good, and he did not have any aptitude. The reason why he could run faster than others was because he was often bullied when he was young. No one wanted to be a coward all their life. Therefore, Su Xiaoma decided to go to Qingyang City to participate in the recruitment of the 100 sects, hoping to enter the sect to cultivate martial arts and no longer be bullied by others. Sect Leader Jun, my name is Su Xiaoma. I am willing to join the Iron Bone sect, please. This was the first thing Li Qingyang said after he joined the Iron Bone sect. What Su Xiaoma would never forget was that before he finished speaking, Jun Changshao forcibly interrupted. Take it. Take it. 2 simple words. Let Su Xiaoma officially become the 3rd disciple after Lu Qianqian and Li Qingyang. Before returning to the sect, Jun Changshao gave the new disciple time to go home and say goodbye to his parents. He happily hugged the two elders, laughing and crying. "Father, mother, your son is now a disciple of the sect." Joining the sect was Su Xiaoma's dream, and he only hoped that he would not be bullied in the future. But who would have thought that, from the moment he became a disciple of the Ironbone sect, he had already ushered in the biggest turning point in his life. Meridian opening, martial disciple, martial master, Wuzong martial king. Mortal grade, middle grade, upper grade, top grade, saint grade. Su Xiaoma never dreamed that he would have such a high realm in just a few years, and have such a high spiritual root. Those who had bullied him before, he was too lazy to pay attention to them, because he only wanted to bully stronger people. Every disciple of the sect of all times had their own story. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei and the others may be relatively plain, but this undercover road was actually equivalent to his story. Chapter 9:12. Status doesn't mean anything, Xia Shuiyan said. Only by becoming stronger can you have everything. She could see that Su Xiaoma was talking about the past, and his eyes showed a strong sense of inferiority, so her words were meant to comfort him. But because of her cold tone, it suddenly changed the meaning. So, Su Xiaoma stood up and strode in front of Xia Shuiyan. Whoosh! He put his hands on her shoulders and said with a dignified look, "After meeting Master, I, Su Jintang, am worthy of any woman in the world, including you, Xia Shuiyan." Boom! Ouch! Sun Yingquan, who had just slipped out, heard the noise and hurriedly turned back. He saw Go Sheng flying out of the courtyard, and then falling to the ground in a sorry state. Sun Yingquan was puzzled and asked, "Why are you fighting?" No, I have to go help." Just as Sun Yingquan was about to turn back, Xia Shuiyan walked out. Her whole face was covered with frost, and the surrounding air instantly dropped to the freezing point. Damn, this woman flipped out. No, I'd better slip away quickly. Su Xiaoma stood up in a sorry state and rubbed his chest that was bombarded. He grinned and said, "I can't beat you now, but when I enter the inner sect and become stronger, you won't have a chance." "So confident?" Xia Shuiyan said with a cold face. Su Xiaoma patted the dust off his body, and then sat on a rock next to her. He put one foot on it and said with a smile, "If I don't even have this much confidence, how can I be worthy of you in the future?" Now that things had developed to this point, it was tantamount to saying that he was worthy of her, and that he wanted to pursue her. Xia Shuiyan said, "When your cultivation surpasses mine, then you can say that again." "No problem," Su Xiaoma said solemnly. "That day is destined to be soon." Xia Shuiyan turned and returned to her residence. However, when she returned to her room, her whole face suddenly turned red. Especially when she thought of that guy putting his hand on her shoulder, she suddenly felt a burst of heat. "Senior sister." Suddenly, Su Xiaoma stood outside the room and said, "Are you still going to do the quest tomorrow?" "You. How did you come in?" Xia Shuiyan hurriedly turned around, afraid that the other party would see her embarrassed look. Su Xiaoma said, "I saw that you didn't close the door, so I came in." Xia Shuiyan said coldly, "Let's talk about tomorrow. I'm going to rest now." "Oh." Su Xiaoma didn't want to disturb him and left. After returning to his residence, he murmured in confusion, "Rest? That's not right. It's only morning." Fongling Sect of all times. After receiving the latest information, Jun Changshao murmured, "This woman is a little arrogant. If I don't make arrangements for her clearly, how can I face sect leader Wang's spirit in heaven?" He ordered Su Xiaoma to go undercover, mainly to investigate this woman and Lu Qianqian. However, just from the fact that she humiliated her fellow sect member in public, she was definitely not a kind person. Since that was the case, there was no need to go through the procedures. He would find a time and opportunity to directly make arrangements. Li Luoqiu shook her head and said, "This Fong Lingyu is a disciple that Taishian Xingzong values more. She has been cultivating in the inner sect, so it's hard for our people to keep an eye on her." "No rush," Jun Changshao said. "There will be a chance sooner or later." Su Gosheng, who was in Taishian Xingzong, was still going undercover. However, After being humiliated in public by Fong Lingyu, he pretended to cultivate harder to the outside world. Junior Su has been provoked. After all, he is a man and has self-respect. If hard work is useful, why do we need talent? The disciples of Taishian Shengzong expressed sympathy for Su Xiaoma's humiliation. They understood that he was working hard to cultivate, but they were not optimistic. After all, Xia Shuiyin's talent was very strong. It would be very difficult to reach the level that was worthy of her. June Patriarch. Feng Feisha stood in the outer courtyard filled with spiritual energy. He looked at the tall and straight mountains that seemed to appear out of thin air in the distance. He was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, "I haven't been here for a while, but your sect has changed a lot." Under normal circumstances, these words were usually polite, but now they were absolutely sincere. Jun Changshao smiled and said, "The quality of the ores sent by Patriarch Feng is very good. Jun is very satisfied. I dare not neglect the goods that Jun Patriarch wants." Feng Feisha said, but he muttered in his heart, "Why didn't he ask me to stay for a meal?" Feng Patriarch Feng is going back today? Yes, I have a lot of things to do. I need to go back quickly. Forgive me for not sending you off. Take care. Feng Feisha howled in his heart. I came from so far away. Is it so hard to give me a meal? It's time to eat. At this time, Lu Wancher stood in the cafeteria and shouted, Aya, it's time to eat. Feng Feisha grinned and said, Then I can only leave after eating. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. These guys came to my sect of all times just to freeload. There was no other way. Who asked your family to make such delicious food? Jun Patriarch, can I take it away if I can't finish it? When Jun Changshao was about to say yes, he saw the other person take out a big iron bowl. He quickly opened his arms to protect the unfinished food and said, No. Feng Feisha sent a lot of ores. Jun Changshao could refine more true yang set and steel wings for the disciples. As for the dimensional battlefield, because he was busy with the construction of the mountain, he didn't have any plans to enter. However, although this guy didn't go personally, his deterrence was still there. The Scarlet Sea Continent and Lingyun Continent martial artists hid in their strongholds all day long, afraid that they would be ambushed. It could be said that, after the previous few battles, Jun Changshao had already left a psychological shadow in the hearts of the two planes. As for how large the area would be, it would depend on the future. However, the Falling Star Continent martial artists who didn't know about this were still pessimistically preparing. They prayed that after entering, they wouldn't be targeted by the Scarlet Sea Continent and Lingyun Continent, the two planes that liked to bully newcomers. Sigh. On a certain day, Mu Changhong sat in the Sect of All Times cafeteria and looked at the food below. He shook his head and said, Jun Patriarch, I don't have any appetite right now. Jun Changshao pointed at the neatly arranged dishes and said, Then why are you eating so much? Annoying. Mu Changhong picked up his chopsticks and ate it clean. Then, he drank a mouthful of soup and said with great hesitation, Very annoying. Jun Changshao comforted him. Isn't it just the Scarlet Sea Continent and Lingyun Continent? City Lord Mu, don't think too much. Maybe when you enter 5 years later, these two planes will already be gone. Needless to say, with this guy's style of fighting and running away, and then coming back again after running away, it was a big question whether the two planes could last for another 5 years. If only this Mu could be as optimistic as Sect Master Jun, then I wouldn't be so worried that I can't eat. Mu Changhong stacked the plates on top of each other and said sorrowfully, Another bowl of fried rice. Chapter 913. Li Qingyang led his fellow disciples to construct the various peaks. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry to go to the dimensional battlefield, so he spent most of his time cultivating. It could be said that this was the period of time where he worked the hardest since he transmigrated. Due to his 5 elements constitution, the power of the 5 elements gathered was purer. As for the various ores sent by Feng Feisha, he had gradually refined the true yang set and steel wings, greatly enriching the Sect of All Times' equipment warehouse. Of course, it was still difficult to supply a large number of items to the disciples. Therefore, after much consideration, Jun Changshao placed the equipment in the equipment pavilion, but the contribution points required to exchange for them were higher. Since he could not give everyone a set, he could only let them earn it with their own efforts. Patriarch. A few days later, Li Qingyang came to see him. Drizzle Peak has been constructed. Is that so? Jun Changshao hurried over. The peak closest to Ironbone Peak had been renovated by Li Qingyang and the others. It already had a hall, a training field, and various other facilities. Of course, Li Luoqiu also participated in the design of the peak, where his hall would reside. Some of the plants and greenery were arranged by her. There was a bamboo forest and maple trees. Emerald green and crimson were the two most common colors in Drizzle Peak. Hall Masterly, find a time to move here. I think today is fine. Sure. Li Luoqiu gave Li Tiantian and Viper a look, and the two of them returned to Drizzle Hall. Soon, a large group of Drizzle Hall members went up the mountain and began to arrange the furniture in the empty hall and other auxiliary rooms. At this point, Drizzle Hall separated from the outer court and officially moved into Drizzle Peak. This was just the beginning. Li Qingyang and Peppa Boar continued to work overtime like 996 hours a day. Medicine Peak and War Night Peak were completed a few days later, and the various halls moved in one after another. From the information Su Xiaoma sent to him, Jun Changshao learned that Taishan Shengzong divided the inner and outer sect. He used it as a reference and modified it. He named the two mountains Transcendent Peak and Towering Peak. Transcendent Peak was where the outer sect disciples lived and cultivated. It had the corresponding martial arts facilities and a large number of rooms. Towering Rong Peak was the place where inner disciples lived and cultivated. Not only did it have matching martial arts facilities, but it also had its own courtyard to show off its status. Once the new division of the inner and outer sect was created, the outer sect disciples would work hard to enter Towering Peak, while the inner sect disciples would work hard to enter Transcendent Peak. As for the new disciples, they would continue to live in the original inner court and cultivate. Of course, since there was a separate division for the disciples, the Patriarch and the higher-ups must also have their own separate divisions. Among the remodeled peaks, there was one that was the tallest and most upright. This was the peak where Jun Changshao lived, and it was named Dragon Head Peak. Dragon Head. It meant the leader of the dragons. Jiangya and the others lived on the neighboring Dragon Pine Peak. The elder was the most important position in the sect, so it was reasonable to name it with the word spine. Patriarch, Li Qingyang said. Are you satisfied? Not bad, not bad. Standing on Dragon Head Peak, Jun Changshao was quite satisfied. The construction style here was what he had requested earlier. Not only were there majestic buildings, but there was also a scenic area to cultivate one's temperament. The most interesting thing was that there was a man-made small lake. When he was bored, he could use it for fishing, or even bathe in it like a swimming pool. That. Li Qingyang scratched his head and said, Peppa Wild Boar has been involved in the construction recently. It's so tired that it can't get up. It's tired from such a small amount of work? Jun Changshao frowned. The system said helplessly, this little guy is the host's first contracted beast. Compared to Xiao Longlong and Xiao Maxian, the treatment it receives is really bad. Finally, someone felt sorry for Peppa Wild Boar. Under the cover of the dark clouds, the drizzle covered the entire Mount Ironbone. In a corner of the herb field, Peppa Wild Boar was curled up in its simple nest, allowing the rain to drip on its body. At this time, if it was accompanied by the background music of holding cornbread in its hand, and not a drop of oil in the dish, it would definitely look more miserable. Ever since it was called by Li Qingyang to reclaim the mountain, Peppa Wild Boar had been busy for more than half a month. Every day, it would wake up early and return late. Therefore, when it was done, it inevitably collapsed from exhaustion. The little guy lay on the ground without any energy, especially when it recalled that when it came to the sect of all times, it was either doing the heaviest work or doing the hardest work. Its eyes were suddenly filled with tears. When will these miserable days end? While Peppa Wild Boar was crying, the rain outside suddenly stopped and a foot appeared in its field of vision. It tried to look up and saw Jun Changshao standing in front of it. Swoosh! Peppa Wild Boar. who was originally exhausted, suddenly burst out with a primordial force in its body. It stood up straight, and the light in its eyes seemed to be telling its master that it was not slacking off and could still work. After being chased by Gosheng many times with the green dragon crescent blade, the little guy had evolved from being lazy to being hardworking. However, after being busy for so many days and crazily stimulating the attributes in its body, it was really very tired. Although it stood up at this moment, its limbs were trembling violently, as if it would collapse at any time. If you're tired, lie down. Don't force yourself, Jun Changshao said. Plop! As soon as he finished speaking, Peppa Wild Boar could not take it anymore and lay on the ground again. Its eyes were suddenly filled with tears. It was afraid that its master would be unhappy and take out all kinds of weapons and put them in front of its head. You didn't go in when there was a gatekeeper ball. Instead, you chose to stay in a simple place in the herb field. Are you deliberately pretending to be pitiful? Jun Changshao said. It's over. He saw through me. Peppa Boar panicked at once. Actually, Jun Changshao sat down and put a hand on its head. He said gently, I'll remember all the things you've done for the sect all these years. Peppa Wild Boar was speechless. Master has always been fierce to me. Now that he's suddenly gentle, it's definitely not good. When heaven bestows a great responsibility on a great man, it must first torment his will, toil his muscles and bones, and starve his body. Jun Changshao said, I'm also doing this to train you. The system said, it's starting again. Little guy, you must remember. Jun Changshao said, I'm going to become the strongest man in the world. As my contracted beast, you must naturally have the ability that others can't. The strongest man in the world? So, Master has such great ambitions. Little guy, Jun Changshao said, let's make a promise. A promise? Peppa Wild Boar was confused. Jun Changshao pointed to the sky and said, quickly become stronger. Follow Master to fight the 9 heavens, conquer the 8 desolations, and create an immortal legend. Peppa Wild Boar's eyes widened. Jun Changshao stood up and looked back at it. He said with a smile, as the first contracted beast of the strongest man in the world, I hope that when I reach the peak, you can accompany me by my side and not stand at the foot of the mountain. Since he did not use his psionic power to purposely dispel the raindrops fell on his body, making his back look even more impressive. Peppa Wild Boar's soul was instantly shaken. The blood in its body was also burning madly. The little guy struggled to stand up and growled weakly. Obviously, it had agreed to its master's promise. On this day it rained for 4 hours. Jun Changshao and Peppa Wild Boar stood in the rain for 4 hours. On the second day, they both caught a cold. Chapter 9:14. After making an agreement with its master, Peppa Wild Boar only rested for 2 days before it took the initiative to open up the herbal field. Therefore, every evening, a diligent figure could still be seen running around. Why is this little guy suddenly so active? It's a little strange. The members of the medicine hall discussed in surprise. Obviously, they did not know that this was the power brought about by the agreement. Sigh. The system said helplessly, poor little guy. It thought that the host would treat Peppa Wild Boar well, but it was tricked so easily. I'm not tricking it. Jun Changshao sat on the boulder of Dragon Head Peak and said seriously, I'm encouraging it. Peppa Wild Boar was lazy at first. It did not even know how to use Earth-type skills, so it could only be trained under high pressure. Needless to say, the effect was very obvious. Under Jun Changshao's gentle training, not only did Peppa Wild Boar become more diligent, but because it was busy every day, its body and posture had been molded, and its appearance had also changed. At this point, it could no longer be described as a boar, but more like a strong elephant. Therefore, from today onwards, the word boar could be removed. Its name was Pei. Chi. The change in Peppa Wild Boar's personality and form was just the beginning. Jun Changshao hoped that his first contract beast could persevere and continue to become stronger. How to become stronger? Digging, plowing, and opening up wasteland. As a rare mirage beast with Earth-type attributes, it could only be developed to the extreme by constantly using its attributes. It seemed that Jun Patriarch was not only worried about his disciples, but also his contract beasts. This moved the system so much that it wanted to spit in his face to show its respect. How could he be so shameless when he had duped her into becoming crippled and glorified it as encouragement? After the construction of the various peaks was completed, the various halls moved in. The inner and outer sect disciples also moved into Transcendent Peak and Towering Peak respectively. With this, the entire sect of all times seemed to be much more spacious than before. The place was bigger and the sect was more mystical, but the expansion cost was not small. After Li Qingyang settled the bill, Jun Changshao slumped in his chair and said with a pained expression, "I can't believe we spent so much. They did not even use any craftsmen. Everything was done with the help of the sect disciples. Otherwise, the costs would have been even higher." "Patriarch," Li Qingyang said, "after this expansion, even if we accept tens of thousands of disciples, the sect won't seem crowded." Jun Changshao said with satisfaction, "You've worked hard during this period of time, but you can't relax. The planar battlefield is still waiting for you to build." Li Qingyang's eyes burned with passion as he said, "Your disciple is ready. I'm only waiting for the Patriarch's order to enter." Expanding the sect was just a small test. Building a large-scale building complex in the stronghold was the real test, because the former represented the sect, while the latter represented the entire continent. Jun Changshao said, "In 3 days, we will enter the planar battlefield." Now that the expansion of the sect was complete, the next step was to go to the planar battlefield. At the same time, they would also expand their stronghold, so that the disciples would have a better space to display their skills. Planar battlefield. The Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent were a bit depressed this month, because they were constantly on high alert, but in the end nothing happened. Palace Master. In the main hall, an elder said, "The Falling Star continent hasn't made any moves recently. Are they brewing some kind of scheme?" The Jade Sea Palace Master said with a frown, "It's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to defend against a stab in the dark. I'm really afraid that guy is playing some kind of trick." After a few exchanges, the Scarlet Sea continent had been at a disadvantage every time, and they had long been traumatized. It was the same for the Lingyun continent. Even though Jun Changshao hadn't appeared in the past month, it made them more and more nervous and uneasy. The cultivators of the Falling Star continent were praying that they wouldn't be targeted by the two planes in 5 years, while the two planes were praying that guy wouldn't come to harm them again. The situation was very delicate. Not good. At this moment, an elder hurriedly walked in from outside and said, "I just received news that the Falling Star continent has ambushed the Shengxian continent and the Imperial Sword continent. Nearly 200 people have died." As expected, Hong Yao frowned and said, "That guy is here again. I didn't expect him to target the Shengxian continent and the Imperial Sword continent. Back when that kid was wanted, the two planes also sent experts to intercept him outside the stronghold. It seems that any plane that has offended him will be targeted." As the upper echelons of the Jade Sea Palace discussed, their originally tense emotions relaxed. At least that guy didn't target them, which was something to be happy about. Fourth Elder. Hong Yao said, "Is there still no news from the Nine Heavens continent?" "No." Hong Yao was puzzled and said, "So many experts have been captured, but Mo Shangxing hasn't done anything. This is really strange." "Palace Lord, in this old man's opinion," the first elder, who had been silent all this time, said, "We don't have to count on the first-tier planes. We can contact the Shengxian continent and the Imperial Sword continent and eliminate that guy together. If 2 planes couldn't handle it, then add 2 more." Hong Yao thought for a moment and said, "The Shengxian continent isn't a problem, but the sword cultivators of the Imperial Sword continent are all too arrogant. They might not join forces with us." "Palace Lord." Just as he finished speaking, a disciple rushed in from outside and said, "The Imperial Sword continent sent a letter." "Oh." Hong Yao took the letter, opened it, and said in shock, "A continent that prides itself on the way of the sword actually took the initiative to join forces with us. It seems that the Falling Star continent has brought them quite a bit of trouble. Very big trouble. Because when Jun Changshao brought people in, the first place they attacked was the Imperial Sword Continent. Moreover, the other party was quite arrogant. Although they heard that the Falling Star Continent had recently attacked 2 planes, they didn't take it to heart. As a result, they lost 100 yellow and more than 50 black. The Shengxian continent was more cautious and had made preparations in advance. Although they couldn't avoid being attacked, they only lost a few dozen people, and their strength was generally at the yellow level. Tell the Imperial Sword Continent that the Crimson Sea Continent is willing to join forces against the Falling Star Continent. Yes. Also inform the Shengxian Continent. Yes. Patriarch. Li Qingyang said. The stronghold has expanded a lot. It's still far from the village. Jun Changshao was not satisfied with the current situation. Instead, he began to think about how to expand the stronghold in the shortest time possible. Dear participant, you don't have to keep killing people. You can look for opportunities that exist in it. There are also opportunities to expand the area. The female system's voice was sweet. Jun Changshao said, What opportunities? The planar battlefield was opened by the Almighty of the Upper Realm. There are many sealed cave abodes and treasure lands. As long as the participant obtains or inherits them in the end, the area of the stronghold will also increase. Cave abodes and treasure lands. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, This kind of opportunity can only be found by luck. It's easier to just kill people. The system said, Do you think the warriors in the planar battlefield are fools and will let you attack them again and again? Of course not. Jun Changshao said. If I'm not wrong, the 2 planes that were attacked just now will probably contact the Crimson Sea Continent and attack the Falling Star Continent together. Ding! Side mission activated. Suddenly, a notification sounded in his ears. He said in surprise, A mission at this time? He hurriedly opened the mission panel. The mission that appeared was Seize the Opportunity Left Behind by Reverend Guan Hai in the Planar Battlefield, Elite Mission. Fuck. He just wanted to increase the stronghold by killing people. But the system gave him a mission to seize the opportunity. Wasn't this forcing him to search the entire battlefield? The battlefield is so big, and there are enemies everywhere. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to find. Patriarch, look. At this moment, Xiao Ziji pointed at the distant sky and exclaimed. Jun Changshao turned and looked. He saw a crimson light dragging a stream of light in his field of vision, slowly flying up like a rocket. The opportunity left behind by Reverend Guan Hai in the planar battlefield is now open. Those who are fated can take this opportunity to obtain it. A deep and aged voice resounded throughout the battlefield. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. At this moment, he finally understood why the side mission was suddenly issued. It turned out, it was an early spoiler. Chapter 9:15. Spoilers were fun. Spoilers were fun all the time. However, Jun Changshao was very depressed now. Although the side mission spoiled the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guan Hai, the light that pierced through heaven and earth was clearly telling the martial artists that he was here, and they could come and snatch it. Dear participant, any opportunity left behind by a mighty being that has been unsealed will be announced on the battlefield. The female system said. Jun Changshao was speechless. Opportunities are a fatal temptation to martial artists. The upper realm announcing it so loudly is also deliberately driving them to kill. Everyone wanted good things related to martial arts. If no one was willing to give up, then they could only kill each other. The system said, Host, you see through it very clearly. In fact, the martial artists from various major planes also saw through it very clearly. Although they knew that the upper realm used it to stimulate killing, they still did not tire of participating. Because the opportunities in the battlefield were all left behind by the mighty beings of the upper realm. Even the most ordinary brick was many times better than the bricks in their own world. This was not. As soon as the heavy voice ended, the camera panned to the farthest distance. They could clearly see martial artists flying out of their own strongholds, and then rushing towards the rainbow light that pierced through heaven and earth. They were so fast that they could not be reincarnated if they were too slow. Let's go, Jun Changshao said. Let's go take a look. If there was no side mission, he might hesitate whether to join in the fun or not. Now he had to go because only by seizing the opportunity could he complete the mission. The upper realm used opportunities to set a trap for martial artists to kill without caring about their lives. The system mission was also a trap, forcing Go Sheng to jump into it. As long as the mission was completed and the contribution points were used to develop the sect, even if it was a mountain of swords or a sea of fire, he would jump in without hesitation. Jun Changshao flew out with Ding Xingwang, Jiangye, the Purple King, and the King of 100 Hills. The others stayed in the stronghold. This time, the appearance of the opportunity would definitely alarm the powerhouses of various planes. He did not bring his disciples and the Ning brothers because he was worried about accidents. From the Ironbone sect to the current sect of all times, only sect leader Wang and one disciple fell. It was precisely because of this that they were so careful. Construction can begin now. Li Qingyang retracted his gaze and focused his attention on the stronghold that had expanded to almost 400 square meters. Several brand new plans immediately appeared in his mind. Opportunities and whatnot had no place in his heart at all. Only construction could make him happy and give him a sense of accomplishment. The experts from the various planes were all flying towards the area where the rainbow light had penetrated. Jun Changshao was also a member of the crowd. Normally, with his armed wings, he could have shaken off a lot of people, but he always controlled his flying speed and flew side by side with Ding Xingwang and the others. There were too many experts in the planar battlefield, which made him a little nervous. So he decided to move together. Patriarch, Jiangye said, just in this region of a few hundred miles, there are 5,000 to 6,000 experts rushing over. Things like opportunities can make a martial artist lose their rationality, Jun Changshao said. Ding Xingwang, on the other hand, was rather worried as he said, if we swagger over, will we be discovered by the Crimson Sea continent and be collectively targeted? This, Jun Changshao frowned, then said, you can change your appearance. As he spoke, he gave each of them a magically modified mask. After they put it on, they all changed their appearances. Change your clothes too. Okay. After everyone had changed their appearances, dozens of martial artists flew over from behind. The leader was actually the palace master of the Crimson Sea continent's Jade Sea Palace, Hong Yao. Patriarch, Ding Xingwang transmitted. They're from the Crimson Sea continent. Should we make a move? No need, Jun Changshao said. Let's head to the location of the opportunity as soon as possible, so that others don't beat us to it. Okay. Ding Xingwang suppressed the thought of making a move. Hong Yao discovered Jun Changshao and the others, but he only gave them a glance before withdrawing his gaze and leading them towards the rainbow light at full speed. At this time, even if he knew that the people in front of him were martial artists from the Falling Star continent, he might not stop fighting, because the appearance of the opportunity was more important than revenge. In other areas, it was also common to see martial artists who originally had grudges against each other glancing at each other before heading towards the rainbow light area. Half an hour later, Jun Changshao arrived at the rainbow light area. There were people everywhere, and they were all floating in the air. The scene was spectacular. After using his essence spirit to spy, Jiangye transmitted his voice. Patriarch, there are at least 50,000 people here. If the disciples of the sect of all times had their cultivation, not to mention dominating the Falling Star continent, it would be easy to beat all the planes, Jun Changshao thought to himself. Although there were many experts here, they tacitly did not communicate. Their gazes were all fixed on the strange stone forest in front of them, because the rainbow light appeared from there. Suddenly a fart sound was heard. Comfortable, Jun Changshao said happily. Because the atmosphere was very quiet, his fart immediately attracted the attention of many martial artists. Some of them were surprised, while others looked at him with disdain. Those who entered the dimensional battlefield had a certain level of strength and status. How shameless was he to fart in such a place? Jun Changshao did not care about other people's gazes. Firstly, he was shameless to begin with. Secondly, he was in charge of everything. Why would he care if he farts? In the central area where all the martial artists were looking, There was a stone turntable with a radius of about 2 meters. Because it did not fit in with the surrounding environment, it was easy to guess that it was man-made. At this moment, the red light pierced through the sky. There were intricate patterns on the stone slab, like some kind of strange array. This array seems a little familiar. Jun Changshao squinted his eyes and looked carefully. Finally, he realized and thought to himself, it's similar to the array structure of the Mystic 32 arrays. Buzz! At this moment, the patterns on the stone slab began to dim, and the light that shot into the sky gradually dissipated. The seal is about to break. The eyes of the martial artists surrounding the stone forest immediately burned with desire. Some of them had already begun to secretly unleash their cultivation and gather their energy in their palms. The originally quiet area instantly became exceptionally somber. It was obvious that if some supreme treasure appeared on the stone slab, a storm of blood would definitely break out. Patriarch, Ding Xingwang said, this is a bit too much. What do we do later? Jun Changshao transmitted his voice. From the current situation, the so-called opportunity should be on the stone slab. If something appears later, we'll wait and see. We'll let the martial artists above charge in first. Okay, Ding Xingwang replied. The Purple King said indifferently, can't we just go and snatch it? That's why you died before you could succeed, and why you were sealed by those Wusheng for so long, the King of 100 Hills said mockingly. As a beast that prided itself on its intelligence, it knew that with so many martial artists present, whoever tried to snatch it first would definitely be hacked to death by the martial artists behind them. The Purple King was instantly enraged by this fellow's embarrassing story, and he suddenly had the urge to rip off his clothes. Ka. At this moment, the stone slab that had disappeared from the stone slab began to slowly rotate. Then, a thin slit appeared, as if some kind of mechanism had been activated, causing a tightly shut passage to open up in an orderly manner. All the martial artists watched intently. They had already activated all the elements in their bodies to the extreme, and they were completely capable of charging in or attacking at any time. Boom! The stone slab completely opened up, revealing a circular hole. Whoosh! Suddenly, a ray of light flew out from the inside. Then, it landed on Jun Changzhao's hand with lightning speed. After the light dissipated, a white egg was revealed. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, more than 50,000 martial artists present turned their heads and locked their eyes on Jun Changshao, as well as the egg in his hand. Their gazes suddenly became unprecedentedly hot. The opportunity left by Reverend Guan Hai on the battlefield must be this item. Judging from the desolate aura emanating from the outer layer of the eggshell, it was definitely a rare and extremely high-level beast egg. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Egg, how the hell did you fly into my hand? Didn't you fucking set me up? Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Before Jun Changshao had time to show a brilliant expression, the martial artists surrounding him had already unleashed their cultivation. Tens of thousands of people unleashed their power at the same time, creating a blast of air that blew his black hair into a mess, and he could not even open his eyes. Bang! At this moment the Purple King, who was standing next to him, exploded his clothes, and a terrifying demonic aura erupted from his body. He roared angrily, "Let's see who dares to come over." Ding Xingwang and the King of 100 Hills also unleashed their power. Logically speaking, the three of them were at the martial sage level, and their auras should be very powerful when they unleashed their power at the same time. However, in the face of tens of thousands of martial artists, they were instantly suppressed. "Retreat!" Jun Changshao shouted, and immediately activated his armed wings and flew out with a whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. However, not long after he left, he felt a tsunami-like aura coming from all directions. It turned out that dozens of martial artists had already blocked the way in advance. "Damn it!" Jun Changshao cursed, and then suddenly waved his hand and threw the egg out. Although this thing exuded a desolate aura, which meant that it was not ordinary, holding it in his hand was like holding a bomb, so it was better to throw it out as soon as possible. As expected, after the egg was thrown out, the martial artists from various planes who had been charging toward him immediately retracted their energy and chased after him as fast as they could. That was close, that was close. Jun Changshao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then transmitted his voice to Ding Xingwang and the others. We will follow behind. Although the egg had been thrown out, it did not mean that he had given up. He would let the martial artists from various planes fight for it first, and when they were almost done, he would... Pa! Before he could finish his thought, he caught the egg that he had thrown out. Damn it! Why did it come back again? Also, why did my hands uncontrollably reach out to catch the egg? Could it be that this was the legendary 100% empty-handed setting? Jun Changshao did not have time to break down and complain, because the martial artists who had been flying away turned around again and charged at him with their cultivation. Therefore, he channeled his energy into his arms and threw the egg fiercely, saying, "Get away from me!" Whoosh, the white egg shot out, drawing a beautiful arc in the air, and then turned back at a speed faster than when it had been thrown out. Pa! He reached out with both hands and caught it again. Ah! Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed as he screamed, and then he communicated with the power of flight and the armed wings, escaping as fast as he could. Then he kept throwing the egg down, but it flew back up every time he threw it. The scene was like playing basketball in the air. Ding Xingwang, the Purple King, and the others' mouths twitched. In this day and age, opportunities still stuck to people, and could not be thrown away? Don't look. Quickly come and protect me. Jun Changxiao's roar, which was close to breaking down, rang in their ears. Ding Xingwang and the others hurried over. But in the next second, they flew back because the patriarch was now being chased by more than 50,000 martial artists. If they rushed in recklessly, they would definitely not be able to get out. In the face of absolute numbers, even a saint-level expert would not be able to withstand it. Patriarch, Jiangye said telepathically, fly to the east, there are fewer people there. Swoosh. Jun Changshao did not have time to use his spiritual sense to explore. He threw the egg out, and then flew to the east, until the egg returned to his hand, and rushed out of the encirclement of tens of thousands of martial artists. The reason why he could run so fast was because of the armed wings, and also because he was being chased by so many martial artists. He could only force himself to activate his little universe. Although he had escaped, the crisis was not over yet. Tens of thousands of martial artists had gone crazy for the egg, so now they were all suppressed. Old man, hand over the egg, and I won't kill you. Hand it over, can't you see that it's relying on me? Jun Changshao roared in his heart as he flew toward the endless sky. Whoosh! At this moment, the space in front of him suddenly shook, and two Earth-level martial artists appeared out of thin air, their skinny hands grabbing the egg directly. Seeing that the two of them were not coming for him, Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief, and secretly thought that it was not bad to be snatched by them. At least he would not be targeted by so many martial artists. Come on, snatch it. I will cooperate with you very much. Swoosh. The egg seemed to have a premonition that it was going to be separated from the hands, and when the two martial artists grabbed it, it flew away in a very flirtatious manner. From a professional point of view, this was definitely a god-level prediction and positioning. However, Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed again, because after the egg flew away, the two Wu Sheng's hands grabbed him directly. Boom! Boom! Two explosions sounded, and Jun Changshao, who had turned into a full-body armor, flew out unsteadily from low altitude. Then, he involuntarily opened his hands and caught the egg in his hands again. Big brother, are you purposely playing with me? Whoosh! 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 All kinds of energy blasted over from behind, and it was obvious that the tens of thousands of martial artists would not allow anyone to take the egg away. At this moment, Jun Changshao could only fly as fast as he could and completely stimulate his limits. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the sky, a stream of light broke through the sky, and its speed could be said to be extremely fast. Behind it, a black mass of martial artists was chasing crazily. The first thing I say when I wake up every day is to give myself a pep talk. Every time I eat an extra grain of rice, I have to say sorry. Mirror, 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 look at me, where is my collarbone? In the sect of all times, The magically modified sound system was playing a moving divine song. Lu Wanshi and Yao Mingyao were teaching the new disciples how to dance. Burn my calories. Swoosh. In the battlefield, Jun Changshao stuck out his tongue, hugged the egg and fled crazily. The calories in his body were burning crazily. Patriarch, hang in there. Ding Xingwang, the Purple King, and the others were chasing from behind. As the Patriarch was flying too fast, they couldn't catch up at all. They could only use telepathy to encourage him. Get lost. Boom, boom, boom. Come, take a deep breath. Morning run, night run, swim a few meters. Tablet dumbbell rowing machine. Don't give up until you reach your goal. In the sect, Lu Wanshi and Yao Minjing were completely unaware that the Patriarch was burning calories at this moment, leading his fellow disciples to dance to the beat. You can't run. If you want to take the egg away, you have to see if I agree or not. Die. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Come, turn around, high temperature yoga, lie on your back. Moving, cycling, Pilates and soaked wolfberries in a thermos cup. Pa. After a while, Lu Wanshi turned off the stereo, wiped the sweat on her forehead and smiled. Today's lesson ends here. Huff. Huff. Jun Changshao, who was in the battlefield, had stopped on a mountain peak. He bent over and took deep breaths. Thousands of martial artists surrounded him, and there were more martial artists behind him. Old Ding. Jiangya, who was far away, said nervously, "What should we do now?" There were so many people surrounding the Patriarch, and the few of them couldn't break in. This was definitely going to be troublesome. Ding Xingwang frowned, and his eyes were filled with determination. If there's no other way, we can only risk our lives and charge in. No need. The Purple King took 2 steps forward and said proudly, "I will deal with them." Ding Xingwang and the others were stunned. If there were only a few hundred people, they firmly believed that Hall Master Z could do it. However, there were close to 10,000 experts present, and there were dozens of half-saints among them. Could he deal with them alone? Ever since I transformed into a human, I didn't use my true form, even when I was sealed by 5 trash. Today for him I can only. The Purple King spread out his fingers, and his eyes suddenly became extremely cold. I will make an exception this time. Chapter 916. True Form? Ding Xingwang and Jiangya's eyes widened. They already knew that the Purple King was a beast from the upper realm, but he had always been in human form. He liked to fight naked, but they had never seen his true form. To be able to fight so many Earth-ranked powerhouses alone, this guy's true form must be very powerful, right? Or perhaps, it was a colossus that was hundreds of feet tall. Ding Xingwang and Jiang Xia immediately began to fantasize, their eyes filled with the intense luster of anticipation that only readers would have. Crack! Suddenly, Z Craggy Monster King clenched his fists, and a violent purple aura surged out of his body. Purple lines gradually appeared on his naked body, and quickly spread out like a formation. The King of 100 Hills was shocked. The demonic aura was so strong that it had the urge to bend its knees in worship. That guy once said that he was the king of the beast race. Could it be true? Whoosh whoosh. The demonic aura was still increasing. The Purple King's eyes gradually turned purple, as if he had entered a berserk state. Bastards! He smiled coldly and said, "Prepare to be horrified." However, while the Purple King activated his true form here, tens of thousands of martial artists in the distance still locked onto Jun Changshao and the white egg in his hand. They would not allow anyone to take away the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guanhai. Everyone. After a short breather, Jun Changshao straightened his back, his eyes filled with murderous intent, and said, "I advise you to leave quickly or else." Buzz. The space shook slightly, and a pocket-sized knife appeared out of thin air. This was the hard blade. Ever since he had improved and obtained a brand new opening seal talisman, Jun Changshao had finally used it. It seemed that today, not only could they witness the Purple King's true form, but they could also see the amazing performance of the modified First Wish weapon. A knife. So small? Maybe it's a hidden weapon treasure. Back in the Black Wind Stockade, Jun Changshao took out the hard blade and was laughed at by a group of bandits. However, In the battlefield plain where experts were as common as clouds, no one dared to underestimate him. After all the martial artists who could come here had some strange trump cards. Old man, an expert sneered. Do you plan to fight against tens of thousands of us? Jun Changshao held the white egg in one hand, and the two fingers of the other hand pinched the unstoppable blade. His eyes were cold as he said, if it's really unavoidable, why not make an enemy of the whole world? Humph, the expert from a certain continent said coldly. As long as you hand over the egg, we won't make things difficult for you. Jun Changshao collapsed. Are these fucking blind people? Can't they see that an egg is latching onto them? Everyone, don't waste your breath on this guy. Let's attack together. Whoever gets the egg will depend on their luck. Someone suggested. Alright. Go. Ho, in an instant, the cultivation of tens of thousands of people burst forth once again, forming a kind of might that immediately pressed down like a mountain. Not to mention the dozens of Earth-level powerhouses among them. Just the formation of tens of thousands of yellow-level powerhouses, releasing their cultivation, at the same time, was enough to make top powerhouses panic. Jun Changshao was panicking now, but now that he was trapped on the mountain peak and couldn't break out, he could only take a gamble. His soul instantly merged into the space ring, and pinched the opening seal talisman in his hand. Just as Jun Changshao was about to crush the talisman, a strong demonic aura suddenly emerged in the distance, instantly overshadowing the eruption of tens of thousands of people. What a terrifying demonic aura! The martial artists who were about to rush over all turned their heads to look. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar was heard, bringing along a manic airwave that blew everyone's hair into a mess. When they got used to it, they all widened their eyes. Jun Changshao, who was about to crush the opening seal talisman, was stunned on the spot. In his field of vision, a huge creature that seemed to be both real and fake, and hidden in the sky appeared. From its shape, it looked like a whale. No, it wasn't a whale. Judging from its huge body, it was obvious that it had accidentally evolved into a kuan, because it thought that his wife had repeatedly made mistakes in refining a useless pet. Wait a minute. The creature's body looked like a fin. But why was it wearing red underwear? When Jun Changshao saw Ding Xingwang and the others standing behind the huge creature, he was shocked. Could it be that this is the real body of Hall Master Z? That's right. It was the real body of the Purple King. In the words of the Upper Realm, this was a purple vast kuan that was comparable to a divine beast. A kuan beast that was hundreds of feet long and looked like a mountain was suspended in midair. All the martial artists present were deeply shocked. This is a kuan, a strange beast that only exists in the Upper Realm. There were many experienced and knowledgeable martial artists among the martial artists. They immediately identified the type of beast that appeared in front of them. The purple vast kuan turned its huge eyes, showing a strong sense of disdain. A bunch of human scum. How lucky you are to be able to see my extraordinary real body. The aura of this beast is only at the earth level. It's obviously still in the growth stage. Could it be that this is the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guanhai? Everyone's eyes were suddenly filled with passion. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, everyone ignored Jun Changshao and locked their eyes on the purple vast kuan. The excitement in their eyes had reached its peak. Although they could not be sure whether the white egg was an opportunity or not, for the time being, capturing a strange beast that had reached the earth level was obviously more cost-effective than snatching the egg. At least they could use it after subduing it, instead of hatching it and spending a lot of effort to cultivate it. Moreover, it was a kuan. The purple vast kuan, that was a little arrogant at first, realized that everyone was staring at it. It suddenly felt that something was wrong. Hall Master Z. At this moment, Jun Changshao said telepathically, since you've unleashed your real body to attract the firepower, I won't let you down. I'll retreat first. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, he retracted his sword and ran away with the white egg. As all the martial artists were staring at the purple vast kuan, no one chased after them. An egg was an egg after all. It was a true upper realm strange beast in front of it. Seeing that Jun Changshao had already flown far away, The purple vast Kuan roared in its heart. I transformed into my real body to save you, but he ran away first. What kind of person is he? Wait a minute. Where did Ding Xingwang, Jiangya, and the King of 100 Hills disappear too? Hall Master Z. A voice sounded in its ear. I didn't expect your real body to be so strong. I believe it won't be a problem to deal with tens of thousands of martial artists. We'll return with the Patriarch, and wait for your return at the stronghold. Only then did the purple vast Kuan realize that the three of them had already flown far away, and left with the Patriarch. Fuck. You bunch of bastards. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, violent energy blasted in from all directions. The tens of thousands of martial artists that surrounded Jun Changshao had already given up on chasing the egg, and were attacking the purple vast Kuan. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. There were explosions and shockwaves spread everywhere. Jun Changshao, who had already flown to a safe area, turned around and looked at the colorful area in the distance, saying, Hall Master Z. The first motto of the sect of all times is to do things with iron bones, and be men with iron bones. You must persevere, you must persevere. Ding Xingwang said in admiration. In order to help the Patriarch attract the attention of the enemy, you're putting yourself in danger. This awareness is truly a role model for our generation. Hall Master Z's brilliance at this moment is enough to illuminate the ages. Jiangya also gave him a respectful look. The King of 100 Hills, who had never liked the Purple King, gave him a thumbs up and said, I thought this guy was a pervert, but I didn't expect him to be so manly. Chapter 917. Inside the Falling Star Continent stronghold. Li Qingyang's brows were tightly knitted. This kind of town-like construction was different from the construction of a sect, because it would expand in the future. Therefore, the layout had to connect the past and the future, and not just randomly build one in the east and another in the west. Sigh. Li Qingyang rubbed his temples and said, if it can expand a little more, it will be easier to build. Currently, there was only one main hall in the Falling Star Continent stronghold. Although it had expanded a lot after a few sneak attacks, there was still not much space for reasonable construction. Even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. Building in such a small space was a big test for Li Qingyang. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji exclaimed. The stronghold has suddenly expanded. Li Qingyang, who was thinking, came back to his senses and found that the stronghold had indeed expanded by about a meter. He said solemnly, the Patriarch should have already fought with the existential plane cultivators. Swish, swish. At that moment, the stronghold expanded again by about 5 to 6 meters. Everyone was stunned. Expanding to such an extent meant that someone on their side had killed many cultivators in an instant. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji frowned and said, will the Patriarch and the others be okay? I hope so, Li Qingyang said. Although he was also very worried. The Patriarch had repeatedly told him not to leave the stronghold before leaving, so he could only wait and not fly out. Swish, swish, swish. At that moment, the stronghold expanded by a lot. From the distance, it was at least more than 20 meters. So many. Could it be that more than 40 existential plane cultivators were killed in an instant? Swish, swish, swish. The stronghold expanded again, and this time, it expanded to at least nearly 100 meters. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others widened their eyes. According to the Patriarch, killing an existential plane cultivator would increase the area by about half a meter. Now that it suddenly increased by nearly 100 meters, it was equivalent to killing nearly 200 people in an instant. Senior brother. Long Xiang said in shock. I'm afraid the Patriarch and the others are fighting madly right now. Martial artists from the Falling Star Continent have killed 146 yellow-class martial artists and 72 mystic-class martial artists. They have gone berserk. Level 2 bounties are being issued, and the reward is 5,000 merit points. A heavy voice suddenly sounded in the sky. Li Qingyang and the others were dumbstruck. Judging from the number of people killed and the expansion of the stronghold, it was obvious that it was done by one person. Only Hall Master Z would be able to do such a thing. Level 2 arrest warrant? Li Qingyang frowned and said, "This is a bit tricky." Xiao Long and the others had previously been Grade 3 fugitives, and that had already attracted the attention of countless powerful beings from various material planes. Now that someone had become a Grade 2 fugitive, with a bounty of 5,000 merit points, even more people would probably go crazy. Not bad. After hearing the voice in the sky, the various Earth-ranked powerhouses who originally did not participate in the fight for the opportunity flew out one after another, rapidly approaching the red light that pierced through the heavens and earth. 5,000 merit points. What kind of concept was that? Just by killing martial artists of the same cultivation level, one would need to kill 500 people to get enough merit points. The person who was on the wanted list was definitely a super fat sheep. Swish, swish. Just as the Earth-ranked powerhouses from various material planes were moving out, the falling star continent's stronghold was still expanding crazily. In about a few minutes, it had increased from the original base to nearly 500 square meters. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched violently. He had just felt that the stronghold's area was not big enough, and that it would be inconvenient to build it himself. Now it was very spacious. Boom, boom. In the sky above the mountain where Jun Changsha was previously, all kinds of energy erupted crazily, dyeing the originally gray and dark environment into a riot of colors. The Purple King, who had activated his Kuan transformation, dragged his 1,000 feet long body and angrily opened his mouth, instantly spewing out an energy wave that seemed to be able to pierce through space. "Retreat!" everyone exclaimed. However, in the area where the energy wave swept past, nearly 100 yellow-ranked powerhouses were unable to dodge and were instantly turned into nothingness in the purple light. It was no wonder that the falling star continent's stronghold had expanded so much in an instant. Just this kind of energy explosion from its mouth was enough to kill 100 martial artists. It was really too powerful. Boom, boom. Although the Purple King transformation had killed many people, it was also bombarded by all kinds of energy from the other material plane's powerhouses. Although the beast's defense would be greatly enhanced after transforming into its true form, facing the bombardment of tens of thousands of martial artists still brought about great pain. Roar! The Purple King transformation roared angrily, and the purple light around its body shone brightly. Then, it instantly shot out streaks of light that resembled guided missiles, mercilessly bombarding the crowd. Boom! 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 Purple cannonballs rained down on the ground like rain. Many powerhouses from various material planes were unable to dodge in time, and were instantly turned into nothingness. Even the weakest of these martial artists was comparable to an emperor-class cultivator. If they were on the falling star continent, they would be considered a powerhouse. Now on the battlefield, they were like weeds being harvested crazily. Go! Injure this beast first. Whoosh! Whoosh! Dozens of Earth-class powerhouses gathered their strongest light and blasted it. Boom! 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 All kinds of energy tore through space and pressed down from all directions, finally landing on the Purple King transformation's body with great precision. Because its body had enlarged, it could only endure all kinds of attacks and endure all kinds of pain. Then, it continued to gather terrifying demonic aura to form purple cannonballs that blasted everything around it. Boom! Boom! Purple energy waves and energy balls exploded wildly. The scene of the Purple King transformation, fighting tens of thousands of martial artists, was extremely shocking. Unfortunately, with dozens of Earth-class powerhouses present, it was impossible for it to kill its way out. At most, it could kill one and earn one. The Purple King transformation endured the pain and roared in its heart. Humans are indeed unreliable. It had been kind enough to activate its true form to save that fellow. But in the end, it had attracted all the firepower, and that fellow had escaped. This teammate of his was too decisive in betraying him. No, I can't fight anymore. I have to break out as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll definitely be in trouble. Roar! The Purple King transformation roared angrily, and its smooth skin, which was very suitable for roasting, suddenly flashed with hundreds of light beams that shot out in all directions. Dodge! Quick, quick, quick! The surrounding martial artists cried out in alarm. Then, they fled as fast as they could. Unfortunately, the yellow and black level martial artists who were closest to them were unable to dodge. They were annihilated on the spot. Even a dozen or so earth-level martial artists were sent flying far away after receiving the attack. Whoosh! 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 The area of the falling star continent's stronghold instantly increased by more than 500 square meters. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others' mouths twitched violently. They could still judge from the increased area that this had definitely killed thousands of martial artists in an instant. There were tens of thousands of martial artists, and there were even more martial artists chasing along the red light. So this amount of casualties didn't count for much. However, when the hundreds of purple light beams dissipated, and everyone prepared to continue attacking, they realized that the Purple King transformation had disappeared into thin air. Where's that beast? The Kuan has the ability to hide in space. It must have taken the opportunity to escape. Look, it's over there. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw a phantom moving at high speed in the air a few dozen miles away. Chase! Don't let it get away! Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, tens of thousands of martial artists charged toward the rippling space. Damn it! The Purple King transformation, who was hiding in space, saw a large group of martial artists charging in from behind, and his eyes were filled with anger. His ability to hide in space and move stealthily could even move unimpeded in the dragon race's territory. Now, because he was covered in injuries from the bombardment, he was discovered after only hiding for a few dozen miles. It was a great humiliation. Dao Fusion, Golden Spirit Annihilation, Wild Wolf Finger, Broad Face Sweep. The famous martial arts of the various Earth-class powerhouses came from behind crazily. When the Purple King transformation saw this, he knew that he couldn't avoid it. He could only gather the purple demonic aura in his body and prepare to meet it. Boom! Boom! Multicolored energy exploded in mid-air, instantly sweeping up a violent storm. The Purple King transformation was dumbfounded, because the energy didn't hit him. Instead, it was blocked by a defensive air wall. Jun Changshao, who was wearing a mask, stood in the area of the energy explosion. The three forms of the mechanical armed wings were fully activated. The spirit armor, 9 phosphor armor, and the true young 4-piece set were all activated. Baby, with his back facing the Purple King transformation, he said with a smile, "Why would I leave you behind?" The Purple King transformation had goosebumps. Next, Jun Changshao raised his hand, and the unstoppable blade appeared out of thin air. He held the hilt with 2 fingers, and looked at the dozens of Earth-level mighty ones charging at him. His eyes were cold as he said, "Leave this bunch of trash to me." Chapter 918. Jun Changshao might abandon his teammates, but he would never abandon his own people. Thus, when he heard the Class 2 arrest warrant in the sky, he returned without hesitation. Where was the white egg? He had already placed it in the incubator. Once the clingy little thing entered, it was immediately isolated. Even if it wanted to fly out, it couldn't break through the barrier. "Leave this bunch of trash to me." The fully armed Jun Changshao stood in front of Zitsong's Kuan and summoned hard to retract blade once more. While holding the scabbard with 2 fingers, the soul in the ring also pinched the opening talisman with its fingers. "Injuring my faction's people." This was an unforgivable thing. Thus, he didn't care about becoming enemies with all the warriors on the battlefield. At that moment, standing in front of Purple Vast Tao Kuan, the fully armed Jun Changshao was like a god of war, who had conquered the 9 heavens and destroyed the 8 wastelands, accompanied by a wild wave of background music. Who is this person? A guy who wears a mask and hides his head. The dozens of Earth-ranked warriors who flew over sneered. Their gazes were still focused on Purple Vast Tao Kuan. They had already determined that this beast had been beaten black and blue by everyone, so it would be easy to take it down. Get lost. Hoo. The few Earth-ranked warriors at the front once again condensed high-grade martial arts techniques, such as wide face, and attacked. The space directly collapsed under the wanton energy. This power was extremely terrifying. However, facing the huge wave of energy, Jun Changshao secretly prayed in his heart. Old friend, my life and Hall Master Z's life are in your hands. Please don't disappoint me. Although this guy looked calm in the face of danger, he was panicking in his heart. After all, he had never used hard to keep blade after the modification, so he didn't know how powerful it was. Although he wasn't confident, since things had developed to this point, he could only place his hopes on this divine weapon given by the first wish. Swoosh! Jun Changshao suddenly pulled back his hand. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he shouted, Bankai! Swoosh! The sound of a saber being unsheathed reverberated in the sky. The surrounding space instantly turned from a gloomy state to daytime. It was so dazzling that it was difficult for the various experts charging over to open their eyes. Their hearts were filled with shock. The light quickly dissipated, and everyone's vision was restored. They hurriedly looked over, and their eyes immediately widened. All kinds of martial skill energy seemed to be controlled, and they were frozen in place, unable to move forward. The masked man was still standing in the air, but a huge sword that was 5 feet long and 6 inches wide appeared in his hand. From the hilt to the tip of the sword, the 8 characters of heaven, earth, thunder, wind, water, fire, mountain, and lake were written in that order. So this is the modified unstoppable blade. Jun Changshao grasped the hilt of the sword and felt the power that seemed to originate from ancient times. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He thought that the god weapon that the leader was willing to give him might be an 80-meter-long broadsword after it was upgraded. Now that he saw the complete form, he realized that he had guessed wrong. Hoo-hoo! The primordial aura emanated from his palms and enveloped his entire body. Jun Changshao said, Awesome! Shwa! He lifted the unstoppable blade that seemed to weigh 1,000 kilograms with one hand. The camera happened to focus on the other side of the sword. The 8 characters of heaven, earth, water, fire, earth, wind and DUI were engraved on it. The Book of Changes, and the 8 trigrams. This heavy sword that seemed to have a medieval style had been blessed with a mysterious power from the east. Let's fight! Let's fight! Jun Changshao poured spiritual energy into the sword. The first characters on both sides of the sword gradually turned crimson from the first stroke. Then they spread to the rest of the characters until they covered the Z and DUI characters. The entire sword instantly erupted with an aura that seemed to be able to shake the world and shake the space. Seeing this, the powerhouses of various dimensions were shocked. At that moment, they could see the space suddenly distorting from the energy released by the sword. The martial skill energy that had been used earlier was gradually collapsing into nothingness under the restraint of some kind of power. Well, what was going on? Shwa! At that moment, Jun Changshao rushed over with the sword in his hand. Hoo-hoo-hoo! The aura that shook the space swept over and instantly enveloped the few earth-level powerhouses at the front. This power seemed to be the power of space. After it wantonly came over, it gradually formed some kind of binding power that made it difficult for them to move at all. Die! Jun Changshao suddenly waved his hand. The unstoppable blade tore through the space, forming an unparalleled crimson sword aura that swept past the bound earth-level powerhouses. Poochie! Poochie! Heads flew, blood splattering everywhere. Zitsong's eyes widened, killing a few earth-level powerhouses in an instant? Was this guy's weapon that powerful? Also, they clearly could have dodged, so why did they stand in place and let the sword aura mercilessly sweep past their necks? Zitsong could not understand, because he had not experienced the despair of being targeted by the unstoppable blade and being restrained by its might, and could only wait for death. Shwa! Shwa! At that moment, the other fighters from various dimensions had already rushed over. When they saw the few earth-level powerhouses being killed just like that, they were also shocked. The Kuan is already injured. Kill this guy, and we can easily subdue him. Someone shouted loudly. Kill! Hoo-hoo! Hoo-hoo-hoo! In an instant, tens of thousands of energy erupted from all directions. Even a heaven-level powerhouse would not dare to fight against so much energy. However, with the support of the ancient power of the unstoppable blade, Jun Changshao had the determination to fight against the heavens and earth. Shua. Spiritual energy poured into the sword, and the crimson light of the 16 characters became even more intense. Then, a visible ripple erupted, instantly spreading out in all directions with him as the center. Whoosh, wherever the ripple passed, the energy that came charging over was instantly frozen in place. Zitsong's Kuan was truly stunned at this moment. Releasing the sword aura, to be able to freeze tens of thousands of energy in space, this definitely meant that he had grasped the profound mysteries of space. This sword of his, Zitsong's Kuan's eyes locked onto the unstoppable blade, and he was shocked. Could it be a divine weapon? It was not only the energy that was imprisoned, but also the thousands of fighters around. At this moment, they seemed to have turned into lifelike statues, completely unable to move. Their minds were still there. Therefore, when they felt a terrifying pressure harming their bodies, making it difficult for them to move, their eyes were gradually filled with unprecedented fear. As for the fighters who were not affected, they were also pale with fright, because they could clearly sense that there was an undercurrent of power not far in front of them, slightly disturbing them, and their movements would be slowed down. The system said, "This is the second form of the unstoppable blade, the absolute sword domain. Once activated, anyone and any energy in the area covered will be forcibly suppressed." Jun Changshao exclaimed, "Awesome!" Although the first form of the unstoppable blade had the ability to control others, the prerequisite was that it had to be locked on. After the second form was activated, it could freeze everything within a few hundred feet, which was absolutely terrifying. There were also many Earth-level powerhouses in the absolute sword domain. This meant that after the upgraded unstoppable blade was unsealed, it could completely crush a powerhouse at Wu Sheng's level to the ground. With such an awesome trump card, it would not be a problem to directly go to the Taishan Shengzong. Something's not right. Suddenly, Jun Changshao realized that things were not good. Under the absolute sword domain, although the thousands of fighters were restrained, the spiritual energy in his spirit core was constantly decreasing, and the consumption rate was several times faster than using various martial arts techniques. The system said, after the host unsealed the unstoppable blade, the energy that can control others' movements is converted from spiritual energy in the Dantian, so it is decreasing every minute and every second. This is too fast. Jun Changshao broke down. According to the rate of spiritual energy consumption, he could only hold on for a few minutes at most. There is a risk of being banned if you cheat, the system said. If the host wants to be awesome, he naturally has to pay a price. Understood. Jun Changshao raised his head and locked on to the thousands of fighters controlled by the absolute sword domain, and a strong murderous intent immediately appeared in his eyes. For the sake of an egg, they had chased him for thousands of miles. Now that the seal of the unstoppable blade had been unsealed, they were as insignificant as ants. Naturally, he would kill them all to expand his dimensional stronghold. If this was the falling star continent, Jun Changshao might have some scruples. But since this was the dimensional battlefield, since killing was the main thing, he could only be fearless. Everyone. He raised the unstoppable blade and said with murderous intent, "Have a safe journey." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Sword light instantly shook out and filled the sealed space. Those powerhouses who were restrained could not move or speak. There was only fear and despair in their eyes before death. The falling star continent stronghold. Realizing that it had not expanded for a while, Li Qingyang said, "The patriarch and the others should have stopped fighting by now." Xiao Ziji looked into the distance and said, "I wonder if they have the opportunity to unlock the seal? Let's get to work." Li Qingyang began to assign tasks to everyone. However, before they could move, the stronghold expanded again, 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters. This, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were dumbfounded. The stronghold expanded from the original to more than 1,000 meters in an instant. This meant that they had killed at least 2,000 martial artists. The stronghold's expansion speed was still increasing. In less than a dozen seconds, it had expanded from 1,000 meters to nearly 3,000 meters. The Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed 4,682 Yellow Class martial artists, 329 Mystic Class martial artists, and 16 Earth Class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. A first-class arrest warrant is issued, with a bounty of 20,000 merit points. The heavy voice sounded in the sky and spread across the entire dimensional battlefield in an instant. All the martial artists in the 300-dimensional strongholds heard it clearly and stood rooted to the ground. Oh my God! So many people have been killed. The Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed 8,982 Yellow Class martial artists, 1,229 Mystic Class martial artists, and 46 Earth Class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. A superclass arrest warrant is issued, with a bounty of 100,000 merit points. Just as the martial artists were shocked, the heavy and desolate voice sounded again. For a moment, the entire dimensional battlefield was in an uproar. Frenzied. A superclass arrest warrant. This was definitely something that had never happened before. City Lord. In the main hall of the Nine Heavens Continent's stronghold, a martial artist said in disbelief, "The highest class arrest warrant is actually not a first-class arrest warrant. There's a super-class arrest warrant above that." Mo Shangxing said in shock, "This is the first time I've heard of it." From the announcement given by the Upper Realm, the Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed more than 10,000 martial artists in a short time. Even a heaven-class martial artist can't do that. That martial artist's mouth twitched. The Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed 23,682 Yellow Class martial artists, 3,456 Mystic Class martial artists, and 62 Earth Class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. Lightning punishment retribution has been issued. Hearing this voice, Mo Shangxing almost fell off his chair. It had only been a short time since the announcement, and the wanted guy had killed more than 10,000 martial artists. Could it be that those martial artists had washed their necks clean and let him cut them off as he pleased? And lightning punishment retribution? City Lord. The elder standing outside the main hall said in horror, "Come out and take a look." Swoosh, swoosh. Mo Shangxing and the other elders hurried to the outside of the great hall. They raised their heads and stared in the direction where the fortuitous encounter had appeared, only to see clouds of lightning and thunder rapidly converging, and the originally gloomy sky instantly turned into darkness. At that moment, the entire plain battlefield lost its color and was shrouded in absolute darkness. Could this be? Mo Shangxing said in horror. This is the lightning punishment retribution. The stronghold of the Falling Star Continent. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were already dumbfounded. The stronghold had expanded to more than 10,000 square meters. It was completely on the scale of a village. Of course, everyone was not shocked by the rapid expansion of the stronghold. Instead, they were shocked by the fact that Hall Master Z had killed more than 10,000 martial artists in a short time. The arrest warrant had been changed continuously, and finally, the lightning punishment retribution had been issued. Hall Master Z, you might not believe it, but I didn't do it. It was the Patriarch who did it alone. I'm also a little flustered now. I don't know what to do. Lightning punishment retribution. Jun Changshao, who was about to continue killing the martial artists nearby, looked up at the thunderclouds gathering in the sky and frowned. The female system said, "Dear participant, because you've killed too many people in a short time and violated the rules of the upper realm, the lightning punishment retribution is issued as punishment." Jun Changshao said, "Is it very powerful?" The female system thought for a moment and said, "Since the creation of the battlefield, no one has been punished before, so I'm not sure how powerful it is." Jun Changshao stood on the spot, holding hard to withdraw blade, and said proudly, "Lightning punishment retribution? What's there to be afraid of?" Patriarch. At this moment, Zitsong sent a voice transmission to him. "The lightning punishment retribution is from the upper realm. It's powerful enough to destroy any target's soul. Don't just stand there. Run. Destroy my soul." Jun Changshao panicked. When he looked back, he realized that the guy had already run away. Obviously, he was worried that he would be implicated if the lightning punishment retribution struck. He, who had planned to fight against the thunderclouds in the sky, suddenly changed his mind. He hurriedly activated the mechanical armed wings and escaped as fast as he could. Zitsong had already run a few dozen miles. Suddenly, it felt the patriarch chasing after it from behind. Its expression collapsed as it roared. "Don't follow me. Quick, quick, go somewhere else. Otherwise I'll be dragged down by you." Whoosh whoosh. The thunderclouds in the sky moved quickly with Jun Changxiao's escape. Then they enveloped him and Zitsong. Boom! Suddenly, a bolt of lightning that shook the entire planar battlefield shot out from the clouds. The originally dark environment was dyed brightly with light. Oh no! Jun Changxiao, who was running away, felt the lightning punishment retribution pressing down from the sky. A strong ominous feeling instantly surged into his heart. Ah! Zitsong Daoquan roared loudly. It could have easily avoided it, but that guy just had to run in the same direction as it. In the end, it was also enveloped by the lightning punishment retribution. Boom! The lightning punishment retribution from the upper realm exploded and struck down fiercely. The moment the power exploded, all the martial artists in the dimensional battlefield felt the ground shake violently. They were so frightened that their expressions changed drastically. With such a violent attack, even a heaven-level powerhouse would die without a burial ground. "It's over," Mo Shangxing said. "The falling star continent martial artists who kill people like flies cannot escape the lightning punishment retribution. Their souls should have been destroyed by now. Being killed directly by the rules. This has never happened before. It's not hard to see from this." Although the upper realm deliberately allows the mortal dimensional battlefield to kill, there are still restrictions, Mo Shangxing said. When the restrictions are exceeded, even if no one can do anything, they will use absolute power to kill. In the punishment retribution area, the ground cracked. The violent lightning element rampaged wildly, and a tear appeared in the space from top to bottom. Obviously, this tear was left behind by the lightning punishment retribution. The 10 to 20,000 martial artists who did not die under Jun Changxiao's sword were now standing in midair in fear. Their legs and hands were twitching violently. Plop! Plop! Many yellow powerhouses fell to the ground, and then collapsed. The lightning punishment retribution was the closest to them. Although they were not affected by the power, they felt the terrifying power after the lightning punishment retribution. It was as if they had taken a trip through hell. Is this the power of the upper realm? It's too scary. At that moment I felt like, no, not even an ant. That Kuan beast and the guy in the mask should be dead. Many martial artists were still in a state of shock as they discussed. Not only were they frightened by Jun Changxiao's terrifying massacre, but they were also frightened by the lightning punishment retribution. At this moment, no one cared about the opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. The lightning element was still wreaking havoc. However, after it gradually dissipated, the martial artists who had been spared from the massacre widened their eyes. This was because dozens of miles away from where the lightning punishment retribution had struck, there was actually a tall tower emitting a desolate aura. I'm actually still alive. In the illusory space, the Purple King said in disbelief. When the lightning punishment retribution struck, he had reverted to his human form. Because his body was huge, he would definitely die if he endured the lightning punishment retribution. If his body was small, he might have a chance to survive. However, the Purple King did not expect that when the lightning punishment retribution struck, the patriarch waved his hand. The scene in front of him suddenly changed, and then he appeared in this illusory place. Wah! Jun Changxiao, who was sitting cross-legged next to him, spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he said, This upper realm's lightning punishment retribution is indeed terrifying. At the critical moment of life and death, he took out the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda and activated its defensive mode. The lightning punishment retribution from the upper realm was very powerful. He could only gamble on whether this thing could withstand it. He was not disappointed. The Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda in its defensive mode successfully withstood the lightning punishment retribution. Huff! Huff! Suddenly, the violent lightning attribute appeared. Very quickly, it enveloped the entire space and filled it. This is, the Purple King said in shock, the lightning punishment retribution that struck down just now. Wang! Area appeared in front of Jun Changshao out of thin air. She pouted and said, the attack just now was very powerful. I only absorbed half of it. The other half was wasted. The Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda's defense system had two types. One was to absorb the energy into the pagoda, and the other was to purely resist. The lightning punishment retribution was very explosive. Area could only swallow half of the energy the moment it came into contact with it, and then forcefully trap the other half. Otherwise, Jun Changshao would have died long ago. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. Go Sheng was very satisfied now, because nothing was more important than being alive. Master. Area took out a small leather whip and said with a smile, these absorbed lightning attributes. I have to train them well. Jun Changshao said. Smack. 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 Area waved the sexy leather whip, and whipped it crazily in the air. The lightning punishment retribution was instantly whipped into a human form, and then they shivered in the corner. This, the Purple King's eyes widened. Wasn't the attribute energy formless? How could it be whipped? How could there be whipping sounds? Master. Area looked at the Purple King, who was wearing red underwear, and said in disdain, does this guy need to be trained? Little girl. Hall Master Z said with a cold gaze, watch your words. Swish. Swish. As soon as he said that, red ropes flew out from the void and tied him up, hanging him in midair. Smack. Area walked over with the leather whip and said coldly, this is my territory. Don't be arrogant. Chapter 919. Damn it. The Purple King, who was tied up, said angrily, if I wasn't injured, I would have trampled you under my feet. The king of the beast race could never back down. Smack. Area lashed out with her whip, and the Purple King screamed in pain. It felt as if she had hit the deepest part of his soul, and it was very unpleasant. Girl, don't mess around. Jun Changshao said, this is my subordinate. Area looked at the Purple King in disdain and said, why does Master have such a perverted subordinate? Jun Changshao was speechless. Whoosh. Area retracted the rope that bound him. If it were not for Master's sake, she would definitely teach this exhibitionist a lesson. The Purple King was tactful. He knew that he was injured and his strength was greatly reduced, so he stopped talking after he was freed. Jun Changshao looked at the thunder-type beings that had been beaten into their human forms and were shivering in fear. He said, you can also purify the energy from the upper realm? No problem. Area said, as the golden prison head of the Tianyuan soul-suppressing tower. As long as she locked the prisoners in, no matter where they came from, she could definitely train them to be obedient. Jun Changshao said, have you purified those attributes from before? He was talking about the strange attributes that made Shi Jingxian lose her mind and go berserk. According to the girl, it would be done in a month or two. Because he was busy with the battlefield and construction recently, he had forgotten about it. Master, the purification is complete. Area snapped her fingers, and an energy similar to a crystal core appeared in the space. She said, I made it into a spirit core. Spirit core? Jun Changshao was stunned. Area explained, only the attributes that have been purified can be sealed in the spirit core. Master, you can take it and absorb it at will. These attributes can make people lose their minds before, so there shouldn't be any side effects after being purified, right? Jun Changshao said. Master. Area pouted and said, I'm a professional at purifying things that are not clean. That's fine. Jun Changshao stored the spirit core into his spatial ring, wondering if he should give it to Shi Jingxian. After all, the energy was absorbed from her body. I'll make a trip to Ingenious Flower Palace when I have the time. We have to return to the stronghold as soon as possible. Jun Changshao was still in the unsealed state of hard-to-retract blade, so he would definitely be in a weakened state. Therefore, he naturally had to return to the safe zone while he still had time. Go! With a thought, he brought the Purple King to the outside world. Hoo-hoo! A cold wind blew over. There was still a trace of violent lightning attribute in the air. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved his hand and retrieved the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Holding the saber that was clearly a sword, he sped toward the falling star continent. Suddenly, he was shocked to find that the crimson light on his body had disappeared. Puzzled, he asked, "Could it be that I was cleansed by the lightning?" The red light around the Purple King had also disappeared. The female system explained, "Dear participant, after the lightning punishment of the upper realm, the accumulated kill points will be automatically reset to 0, regardless of whether the target is killed or not." I knew it. Recalling the powerful lightning punishment just now, Jun Changshao said bitterly, "If it weren't for the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda, I would have been dead even if I were cleansed." The power of the upper realm was terrifying. That guy, he's not dead. He's still alive. Dozens of miles away, the surviving powerhouses from the upper realm widened their eyes when they saw Jun Changshao appear out of thin air. The terrifying lightning strike just now had deeply shocked them. They firmly believed that if they were in his shoes, they would have died without a burial place. And he shouldn't be alive. Everyone. Jun Changshao also noticed the martial artists in the distance. He shouted coldly, "I'll remember the grudge of today's siege. I'll definitely come back for revenge one by one in the future." There were restrictions on hard-to-retract blade. He could not be allowed to act recklessly, so he could only leave some harsh words. The corners of the martial artists' mouths twitched. "We did besiege and kill you, but in the end, so many of us were killed instead. You're not injured at all. Even if we're going to leave some harsh words, it should be us." Whoosh! Jun Changshao and the Purple King moved at full speed and soon disappeared from sight. The surviving martial artists from the upper realm did not dare to chase after them because they knew that the guy with the big sword was too terrifying. They were lucky that he did not come back to kill them. Who the hell is he? From the announcement, he must be a martial artist from the Starfall continent. This guy called himself I. Could he be the patriarch of the strongest sect in history? His voice sounds familiar. It's him. In the beginning, Jun Changshao used the voice of an old man. When he returned to save the Purple King, he reverted to his original voice, so everyone had more or less guessed his identity. It did not matter anymore. After all, the disguise was only used to make it easier to snatch the opportunity. Now that the opportunity was in his hands, it did not matter if his true identity was exposed. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streaks of light streaked across the sky and landed in the Starfall continent's stronghold in the shortest time possible. Jiangye Ding Xingwang and the others had also returned. Patriarch. Seeing Jun Changshao return safe and sound, everyone's tense hearts immediately relaxed. Hall Master Z. Li Qingyang asked, "Are you okay?" The Purple King crossed his arms and said calmly, "I'm fine." "Amazing." Li Fei gave him a thumbs up and said, "You killed tens of thousands of martial artists and were punished by lightning, but you're still fine. Hall Master Z is really amazing." The Purple King's mouth twitched, and then he said reluctantly, "Those were all killed by the Patriarch." Ah! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were stunned. Lu Qianqian, who was leaning in front of the main hall, looked at Jun Changshao in surprise. From the announcement of the lightning punishment, more than 20,000 martial artists had died, including dozens of Earth-level martial artists. He did it alone. Unbelievable. He Wudi and Yi Xingchen were shocked. With their previous strength, it would not be a problem to kill so many martial artists. But the Patriarch was only a half-saint. Wait, why did the big sword in the Patriarch's hand, which was engraved with strange words, emit an ancient and sacred aura? Could it be? He Wudi and Yi Xingchen were shocked. This is a divine weapon from the upper realm? The 3 of them might be late, but they would never be absent. Shoo! Jun Changshao sheathed the sword and made a shushing gesture. Keep a low profile, keep a low profile. Plop! As soon as he finished speaking, he collapsed. The sword could only be used for 60 minutes, and it would lose its effect when it was sealed again after sheathing. So Gosheng was already weak. He was so weak that he did not even have the ability to move his fingers. The system said, activating the second form of the sword, the weak state will last for 2 hours, and the user will not be able to use spiritual power for a month after recovery. In professional terms, the host is now equivalent to a useless person. Jun Changxiao broke down in his heart. As expected, there's a price to pay for cheating. Chapter 920. After unsealing the unstoppable blade, he used his strength to prove how powerful his transformation was. As for the side effects, although it was a little longer than the first form, it was not a big problem with the space-time secret realm. Moreover, compared to the universal talisman's 1 year, a month of weakness was simply too damn good. Patriarch. Li Qingyang hurried over, helped Jun Changxiao up and said, "Are you all right?" It's an old illness," Jun Changxiao said weakly. "I feel uncomfortable every once in a while." Everyone understood. They had experienced the patriarch's paralysis many times, so they were already used to it. But could it be that there was no cure for this strange illness that would paralyze every once in a while? There was a cure. As long as Jun Changxiao promised that he would not die in the future, he would definitely not fall ill. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest. You have obtained 20,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 442,005,0000. Ding! Completed the side quest, triggered the hidden reward, obtained experience talisman X2, has been transferred to the space ring. After hearing the notification, Jun Changxiao broke down. The elite mission only gives 2 experience talisman? This guy was really arrogant. He actually started to complain that the reward was too little. The female system's voice sounded in his ears. "Dear participant, because you have obtained Guan Hai's opportunity, the Falling Star Continent's stronghold has increased by 10,000 square meters." Swish! As soon as she finished speaking, the stronghold's area expanded again. Jiang Ye and the others, who were inside, casually took a look and found that this place was much larger than before they went to snatch the opportunity. Li Qingyang's eyes lit up. At first, he thought that the stronghold was small, but after 2 large-scale expansions, he could roll up his sleeves and boldly build it. However, he did not immediately make a move. After all, the patriarch was in a weakened state. "Return to the sect," Jun Changxiao said. Yes, Xiao Ziji carried him on his back, and everyone returned to the sect of all times without looking back. Enough fun, they left. However, the news about the opportunity and thunder punishment spread wildly in the various strongholds. One person killed tens of thousands? Heavens! The Falling Star Continent is too terrifying. I heard that even the lightning punishment from the upper realm didn't kill that guy. Jun Changxiao had slaughtered tens of thousands of people and survived the thunder tribulation unscathed. It was destined that his name would resound throughout the entire planar battlefield. When the Crimson Sea continent and the other 4 realms received the news, they were instantly filled with worry. So many people were unable to do anything to the other party. Even if they joined forces, they might not be able to gain any benefits. "Palace Master," a Blue Sea Palace elder said in a deep voice, "I believe that we should take our time in dealing with the Falling Star Continent." He had followed his heart. Hong Yao said with an ugly expression, "That guy is the killing god." He was also present when the opportunity left by old man Guan Hai appeared. But he did not charge to the front. Therefore, he witnessed with his own eyes the scene of Jun Changxiao holding a large sword and blocking thousands of people with an explosive aura, taking their lives as easily as cutting grass. To tell the truth, Hong Yao was so scared that he almost peed his pants, especially after he learned from the cultivators of various realms that that guy was the patriarch of the strongest sect in history. A chill ran down his spine. He actually wanted to join forces with the other realms to become enemies with such a terrifying guy. Wasn't that suicide? "Palace Master," a subordinate rushed in from outside and said, "The sword-wielding continent sent a message, unilaterally dissolving their alliance with the Crimson Sea continent." Hong Yao's mouth twitched. This self-proclaimed noble sword Dao Plane was cowering even faster than him. Not long after, the message of dissolving the alliance between the Shengxian continent and the Lingyun continent also arrived. At this point, the four realms that had just been established announced their disbandment, before they could even take action, after Jun Changshao killed people to the point of madness. This was definitely the most cowardly alliance in the history of the planar battlefield. In the Nine Heavens continent's stronghold, when Mo Shangxing found out that the guy who killed people like flies was Jun Changshao, he sat on the chair in a daze. City Master. An elder's mouth twitched as he said, "This guy was punished by lightning and left unscathed in front of everyone." The shock in Mo Shangxing's eyes was even stronger. Although he didn't personally witness it, he could tell from the lightning that it was extremely terrifying. Even 10 of him wouldn't be enough to kill him. How could that guy be unscathed? There's only one possibility. Mo Shangxing thought for a moment and said with a serious expression, "The lightning punishment from the upper realm should be controlled by the falling star continent. It looks terrifying, but it's just for show." Hearing this, all the elders agreed. They were more willing to believe that the higher-ups were deliberately going easy on things that couldn't be explained by martial arts. "City Master," another elder said, "there's news from the continent. The one in charge of the planar battlefield this time is Empress Lingyao, and she just ascended from the falling star continent." Mo Shangxing, who wasn't sure at first, slapped the armrest and said, "There really is someone above him." In a palace that seemed both real and illusory, the hunchbacked elder walked in and said, "My lord, you only gathered half of the lightning punishment's power. If this is reported to the realm hall, I'm afraid there will be a lot of trouble." Lying on the throne and surrounded by clouds, the woman said calmly, "He's just a half-saint. It's reasonable for me to use half of the lightning punishment's power. Moreover, don't the people on duty try to fight for benefits for their former mortal realm every time? What's wrong with me lowering the difficulty?" The elder fell silent. The Lord was clearly using her position on duty to side with the falling star continent. But thinking about the long-standing unspoken rules, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao walked out of the space-time pocket energetically, then spread his arms and said, "Nice." The 1-month side effect of Unstoppable Blade had been completely eliminated under the time acceleration. Moreover, after meditating inside, his understanding of the dragon-elephant Prajna Palm had improved significantly. "Patriarch," Li Qingyang said, "when are we going to the battlefield?" Jun Changshao knew that this guy was in a hurry to build, so he said, "Bring Zue Ji and the others in. Remember, don't leave the base without permission." Li Qingyang said in surprise, "Patriarch, you're not going in?" "I'm going to Wondrous Flower Palace." That day, Jun Changshao set off for this fourth-rate sect that he had established an alliance with, but had never visited before. As for Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others, they entered the planar battlefield. They obeyed the Patriarch's orders, and were only responsible for construction inside. They wouldn't leave the safe zone easily. Actually, there was nothing to do outside. After experiencing so many fortuitous encounters and killing, everyone was afraid of the falling star continent. No one had the courage to offend them. Wondrous Flower Palace Main Hall. "Jun Patriarch, our palace lord is cultivating. I've already sent someone to inform her. Please wait for a moment," Zhang Sun Fanghua said with a smile. After the 9 Poisons Temple incident, this elder's attitude towards Jun Changshao had completely changed. It's fine. Jun Changshao sat down and smiled at the female disciple serving tea. "Jun is just here to pay a visit. It's nothing important. I'm sorry if I've disturbed Palace Lord Qi's cultivation." Zhang Sun Fanghua said, "Jun Patriarch, have you heard of the altar's information on the planar battlefield?" "This," Jun Changshao pondered for a moment then said, "I've heard a little." Chapter 921. Sigh. Zhang Sun Fanghua sighed and said, 5 years later, we'll send 2,000 martial artists to the dimensional battlefield. I'm afraid it'll be hard to tell if they'll survive." "Good." Another pessimist. Jun Changshao said, "Senior Zhang Sun, You don't have to worry. Besides, it'll be Wu Huang going. You're only a peak martial king now. He shut his mouth after saying that. Maybe she could break through in 5 years. This was what Zhang Sun Fanghua was worried about. She had broken through to peak martial king for a long time. It was entirely possible for her to break through to martial emperor in 5 years. This was equivalent to meeting the criteria. If the first batch couldn't enter, the second and third batch would definitely be sent. Zhang Sun Fanghua didn't have the resolve of City Lord Han and the other experts to sacrifice their lives for the continent. She just didn't want to leave Miaohua Palace. After all, she had to share many of the sect's responsibilities. June Patriarch, Zhang Sun Fanghua said with a sad expression. 5 years later, if I go to the dimensional battlefield, please help my palace lord. This feeling, it was like making arrangements for her death. Jun Changshao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, there's always a way out. Senior Zhang Sun, don't be so pessimistic. Speaking of which, the martial artists of the Starfall continent were too unconfident. The next time he went in to cause trouble, should he set up a projection array and broadcast it live to give them confidence? The system said, Host, you're thinking too much. The transmission of image signals between single planes is a big problem. The images in a continent could be transmitted through arrays, but the dimensional battlefield and the Starfall continent were 2 different planes. No one knew how far they were apart. It would be very difficult to transmit them through a projection array. I'm just thinking about it. Jun Changshao thought to himself. If this kind of thing could be transmitted through arrays, it would definitely be a little shocking. Jun Patriarch. At this moment, a light voice came from the side door of the hall. Shi Jingxian, wearing large glasses, walked in. From her attire, she didn't seem to be cultivating. She deliberately dressed up. Palace Lord, Zhang Sun Fanghua said. I have something to deal with. I'll take my leave first. Only Jun Changshao and Shi Jingxian were left in the hall. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian sat on the palace lord's seat and said with a smile. How come you have the time to come to my exquisite flower palace? Since our 2 sects have formed an alliance, it's only natural for us to interact more. As Jun Changshao spoke, he carefully looked at the woman and found that she was more energetic than before after not seeing her for a while. The great elder mentioned the planar battlefield just now. Jun Patriarch has reached the Emperor realm. Even if he's not part of the first batch, he'll be part of the second batch, Shi Jingxian said. Jun Changshao said, I don't care which batch it is. Jun Patriarch's attitude is really good. Shi Jingxian frowned and said, After my elders learned of this matter, they were so worried that they couldn't even eat. It's not a big problem. Jun Changshao said, Come to my sect of all times cafeteria. I guarantee that the more worried they are, the more they eat. Puchi. Shi Jingxian covered her mouth and laughed. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, Actually, the planar battlefield isn't as scary as everyone thinks. As long as you relax, it'll be fine. To him, it wasn't scary, but the cultivators of the falling star continent didn't know. Especially those big shots who were worried about whether they would be bullied by the Crimson Sea continent and Lingyun continent if they entered the planar battlefield. Shi Jingxian said seriously, I'll work hard in the next 5 years. If Jun Patriarch is chosen, She lowered her head and said in a low voice, I'm willing to enter the planar battlefield with you. Oh. Jun Changshao said with a smile. So Palace Master, she can break through to the Emperor realm in 5 years? Big brother. Is breaking through to the Emperor realm the important thing? If Elder Wei was here, he would have covered his head and said, I can teach Su Gosheng, but I can never teach Jun Gosheng. Shi Jingxian smiled brightly and said, My talent isn't bad. As long as I focus on cultivation, I should be able to break through to the Wu Huang realm in 5 years. Recovering from her eye disease not only gave her light, but it also gave her absolute confidence. Okay, Jun Changshao said. If I enter the planar battlefield in 5 years, I'll definitely bring Palace Master Shi with me. Shi Jingxian meant that she was willing to experience life and death with him, while Gosheng meant that he was willing to bring her in. Their attitudes were completely different. All right, Jun Changshao took out something similar to a crystal core from his interspatial ring and said, "This is the strange attribute I absorbed from Palace Master Shi's body. It's been purified, and I'm here to return it to you." Shi Jingxian was confused. Jun Changshao said, "I still have things to do at the sect. Jun will take his leave first." Shi Jingxian personally sent him to the sect gate. Looking at his departing figure, she muttered in disappointment, "So he's just here to give me something." After returning to her residence, she took out the translucent spirit core and recalled what Jun Changshao said just now. Puzzled, she asked, "It's been purified?" Shua. Shi Jingxian released her spiritual sense and fused it with the spirit core. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the strange attribute was released from it and then lingered around her body. It fused with her without permission and then gathered in her dantian. That attribute is here again. Shi Jingshuan's face was full of surprise. The strange attribute that was absorbed by the vacuum cleaner had always existed in her dantian. Every time she was depressed, it would erupt like a flood and cause her to enter a berserk state. During the years of treating her eye disease, Shi Jingxian had thought of getting rid of the energy, but she had failed time and time again. Later, when she went berserk in the 9-Poison Temple, the strange attribute was taken away and never returned. It seems to be more docile than before. Shi Jingxian used her mind to communicate with the attribute that had gathered in her dantian and found that it was no longer as irritable as before. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the strange attribute seemed to be stimulated by her mind. It immediately flashed and then suddenly spread out, spreading to all the meridians in her body. Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue, who were busy, suddenly sensed a strong energy fluctuation in the patriarch's courtyard. They exclaimed in unison, "Oh no, the patriarch went berserk again." They were very familiar with this kind of aura. Shua. Shua. In an instant, all the elders of Miaohua Palace rushed to Shi Jingshuan's residence. However, when they landed in the courtyard, they were all dumbfounded because the palace master had just walked out of her room. She was emitting a strong aura, and her strength had increased a lot. However, although her eyes looked a little cold, there were no signs of her going berserk. "Palace master, are you all right?" Zhang Sunfanghua asked softly. Shi Jingxian said, "I'm fine." Zhang Sunfanghua, Leng Xingyue, and the others widened their eyes. The aura emitted by the palace master was obviously consistent with her previous berserk state. But why was she so calm, and could even speak normally? Whoosh! Suddenly, the strong aura that gathered around Shi Jingxian dissipated and retracted in her dantian. The coldness in her eyes turned into gentleness as she muttered, "Is this the purification that Sect Master Jun was talking about?" Yes, this was purification. It eliminated the unclean things that originally controlled one's thoughts, leaving behind beneficial energy. Now Shi Jingxian could enter a cultivation berserk state for a fixed period of time, and did not have to worry about losing her rationality. This is amazing. She was secretly shocked. How did Jun Patriarch do it? It was not Jun Changshao who did it, but Arya, who was proficient in whips and candles, did it. At this moment, the lightning tribulation energy trapped in the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda took human forms, and was painfully and happily being trained by it. Sect of all times. After returning, Jun Changshao first went to the dimensional battlefield, and saw Li Qingyang leading the disciples to actively dig the foundation. Then he placed the incubator in the study. This egg is an opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai. It means that it came from the upper realm. If it hatches, it will definitely be some rare beast. Jun Changshao took out dozens of crystal cores of decent levels, and transferred all the energy inside. Then, he slapped it on the incubation button, and the LED screen immediately showed the words incubation time, 0/30 days. Mutation rate, 0/100. As expected, Jun Changshao broke down. "Hatchet, I'll have to spend money again. Brother." He turned his head and grabbed the camera, saying tearfully, "Recommendation tickets and monthly tickets can increase the mutation rate. I need support." Chapter 922. Back when he hatched the little dragon, in order to let it mutate, Jun Changshao had sold everything he had. Now that he had another egg from the upper realm, he was prepared to spend money. After all, what was the point of playing without spending money? At that time, he didn't have any money. Even if he spent tens of millions, his heart would ache so much that he wouldn't be able to sleep. Now that he had the support of various industries, he had sufficient funds. Come. Jun Changshao took out a large amount of crystal cores. These were all obtained from the 9-star elder. Ding! 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 The crystal core's energy was crazily poured into it. The mutation rate gradually rose from 0 to 50. As a player whose equipment would shatter even with a 95% success rate, Jun Changshao definitely pursued a 100% success rate. Hence, he continued to pour energy in. Discarded crystal cores were thrown on the ground one by one. At this time, if the martial artists of the Starfall continent saw this, their eyelids would definitely twitch. Because if converted into money, it would definitely exceed tens of millions. Jun Patriarch really didn't lack money. Moreover, the crystal cores were snatched from the dimensional battlefield. Spending them didn't hurt at all. After pouring in an unknown amount of energy, the mutation rate on the LED screen finally rose to 100. Okay, Jun Changshao said very comfortably. Just wait for 30 days. The little dragon's incubation time was 15 days, and this one needed 30 days. He couldn't help but guess, what kind of awesome beast would it be? Incubation was a long process. Jun Patriarch wouldn't be guarding it every day, so he focused on cultivating and managing the sect. Patriarch, Li Luoqiu reported. The Taishian Xingzong found a small group of demon sect remnants at the Raging Waves Lake. They have already sent experts to encircle and eliminate them. These self-proclaimed righteous sects are really sparing no effort to eliminate the demon sect's martial artists. Jun Changshao shook his head and said. Li Luoqiu said. Little Mo said that it's a good opportunity for promotion, and volunteered to go with the sect's experts. Tell him to be careful. Jun Changshao didn't plan on cooperating with Su Xiaoma's act. After all, it was enough for old man Jun Tian to appear once. If he appeared frequently, it would arouse suspicion. I have another piece of news. Li Luoqiu said. Spies have reported that all the plants in a valley in the southeast province have withered. During this period of time, she had been developing her intelligence network. She had successfully covered the remote southeast first prefecture, and was one step closer to covering all 9 major prefectures. Oh, Jun Changshao immediately took it to heart. After all, it might be related to the soul race that the Array Emperor had mentioned. He definitely would not forget this race that had brought disaster to the Falling Star continent. Therefore, he had to investigate it as soon as possible. He could not allow the tragedy of the ancient era to happen again. After learning the exact location, Jun Changshao personally went to the southeast Shi province. 2 hours later, he arrived at the valley where the vegetation had withered. Not only did he find many withered skeletons of spirit beasts, but he also found the skeletons of dozens of martial artists. There were fingerprints and claw marks on the ground. It was obvious that they had struggled before they died. They finally couldn't hold back and made a move on humans? Jun Changshao's gaze gradually turned cold. If he didn't find this guy who absorbed the energy of others to improve himself, he would become a scourge sooner or later. In a dark forest, dozens of martial artists were carefully advancing. Walking at the back was a man in a black robe. Because he kept his head down, his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. Little guy. The middle-aged man walking at the front smiled and said, "When we find the opportunity, we will naturally share it with you. Many thanks." The black-robed man raised his head and smiled. From the appearance and voice, it was indeed Dai Lu, who hadn't appeared for a long time. As a little villain who had lived from the first chapter until now, there were definitely readers who cheered for him here. There were also readers who wished for him to die immediately. "Boss," a martial artist said. "Found it." While speaking, everyone stopped. There was a natural cave in front of them. Waves of cold wind blew out from inside. It was obvious that a powerful spirit beast was hiding inside. "Little guy," the middle-aged man said. There is a 1,000-year-old heaven and earth treasure in the cave. You go and lure the spirit beast out. We will take the opportunity to sneak in and take out the treasure. Then we will divide it equally. Dai Lu frowned slightly. No wonder they took the initiative to form a team and invite him. It turned out that they wanted him to be the vanguard and be the cannon fodder. If it was in the past, I might have foolishly gone to attract the spirit beast. But now, why would I do such a stupid thing? Dai Lu said, You guys attract the spirit beast. I will go in and take the heaven and earth treasure. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Didn't we agree before joining the team that you must listen to my orders? Yes, we agreed, Dai Lu said coldly. But if you want to die, I have the right to refuse. Little guy. The surrounding martial artists immediately surrounded him and said coldly, Boss told you to go, so you must go. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this forest alive. A threat. A blatant threat. Dai Lu's eyes flashed with a hint of grassland green. Little guy, Sol said unhappily. If it were me, I would have already absorbed all these evil martial artists. Why would I pretend to be polite with them? Sigh. Dai Lu sighed and said to himself, I just want to get the heaven and earth treasure. I don't want to absorb their energy. Sol said, In this world of mutual deception, who would give you benefits for no reason? So just be straightforward and absorb all their energy. Okay, I will go, Dai Lu said. Sol. He had been teaching by example every day. Why was this guy still not enlightened? Hurry up. The martial artists urged in a low voice. Dai Lu did not say anything and walked toward the cave. Since he had come to the location of the heaven and earth treasure, he could just go in and absorb the spirit beast. Then, he could take the treasure away and be done with it. Third brother. The middle-aged man said in a low voice. When that guy reaches the entrance of the cave, think of a way to alert the spirit beast inside. Yes, boss. The martial artist next to him took out a longbow from behind, then took out a special arrow and knocked it on the string. Swish. When Dai Lu was about to reach the cave, the arrow suddenly broke through the wind and instantly hit the stone wall. There was a loud bang. Roar. The spirit beast that was resting heard the noise, and then dragged its huge body out of the cave. Its huge eyes instantly locked on to the black-robed human. Damn it! Dai Lu cursed in his heart. The dozens of martial artists hiding in the dark saw the spirit beast appear and locked on to that guy. The corners of their mouths suddenly raised into a smile. Roar! The spirit beast that was infinitely close to the emperor level in strength pounced angrily. Dai Lu's eyes flashed coldly. He was about to use the energy in his body when he saw a huge fist coming from the sky and directly hitting the spirit beast's head. Boom! The powerful spirit energy spread, rolling up dust. The dozens of martial artists hiding in the dark were all stunned, because a young man in white stood in the sky above the dust. He looked familiar. They seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Big brother. The martial artist with the longbow said in shock. It's the patriarch of the sect of all times. Swish. Jun Changxiao floated down and picked up the crystal core that had rolled on the ground. He then looked at Dai Lv, who was in a daze, and said with a smile, We are quite fated to meet here. Dai Lu's mouth twitched slightly. The explosive power of this fellow's sudden punch made him feel extremely insignificant. Jun Changxiao walked into the cave and put the treasure into his interspatial ring. He then walked out and looked at the group of martial artists in the distance and reminded, These people are not easy to deal with. Don't get too close to them in the future. Swish. After he finished speaking, he flew away. He left quietly, just as he came quietly. He waved his hand lightly and took away the treasure. Dai Lu stood in place for a long time before he came back to his senses. He then clenched his fist and cried in pain in his heart. Why did this guy save me? Chapter 923. Killing the spirit beast with one punch, and then taking away the treasure. This was in line with Jun Changxiao's style of acting cool and running away. However, Dai Lu was deeply shocked. Especially when the fist came down. The terrifying aura that exploded out made him realize that the gap between him and him was too big. The matter of revenge. There was no hope at all. What made Dai Lu even more intolerable was that he was saved by him. One must know that after the destruction of the Spirit Spring sect, the only thing that kept Green Scarf Brother growing stronger was that unforgettable hatred. Now that he was saved by the person he hated, although this saving was obviously unnecessary, it was still hard for him to accept. In other words, after Jun Changshao appeared and beat Dai Lu up, it would make him feel good. But saving him was no different from fiercely whipping his soul. Save? Green Scarf Brother was thinking too much. Jun Changshao was just passing by to investigate the withered plants, and coincidentally found the treasure. It was not about saving, it was more because it was convenient. Of course, knowing Dai Lu was also one of the reasons why Jun Changshao saved him. Although the two had conflicts, it was only a few years ago. Now that he had broken through to the sage to be level, he had a magnanimous heart, and would not fuss over the past. Qin Haoran was a classic example. After Jun Changshao had absolute power, he only arranged for the 100 Sect alliance, and did not deliberately make things difficult for him and the other sect elders. When you have no money, the people around you look down on you. But when you have money and wealth that can rival a country, you have already risen to another level, and naturally would not lower yourself to the same level as ordinary people. Status determines one's attitude. Why did that guy save me? Why did that guy save me? Dai Lu was still roaring in his heart, unable to let go of the fact that he was saved by Jun Changshao. Soul said indifferently, "It's very simple, he thinks that you are trash and no threat to him. So he saved you with a kind of charity attitude, making you feel grateful towards him." These words were really bad. Making Jun Changshao save him in passing, it was raised to the level of humiliation. Damn it! Dai Lu clenched his fists and said, "Sooner or later, I will make you and your sect of all times pay the price." He had said such harsh words many times. Although he had been tortured thousands of times by Night Emperor, he still persisted and never wavered. "Boss." A few martial artists walked out of the cave and broke down. "The treasures are gone. They must have been taken away by the patriarch of the sect of all times." AI. The middle-aged man sighed, and then he glanced at the dazed Dai Lu and said, "We worked for nothing. Let's go. What should we do with this kid? Kill him?" "All right." Originally, he had hoped that the other party would lure the spirit beast out and provide him with an opportunity to enter the cave to steal the heavenly treasure. Now that the item had been taken away by Jun Changshao, it naturally lost its value. Swoosh! Whoosh! Dozens of cultivators surrounded Dai Lu, their eyes flashing with cold killing intent. Soul said, "Kid, do you see reality now? These people have been treating you like a fool." Dai Lu came back to his senses and muttered, "Aren't you the same?" Soul, since the entire world is bullying me, then it doesn't matter if I destroy the world, Dai Lu muttered to himself. His eyes gradually turned green, and he seemed to have entered a berserk state. Soul hurriedly dissuaded him. Jun Changshao just left. If you erupt so recklessly, you will definitely alarm him. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, green attributes suddenly burst out and enveloped the dozens of martial artists around him. Dai Lu's killing intent surged. Die! Whoosh whoosh. The spirit energy of the spirit cores was drawn out uncontrollably. Everyone's skin quickly withered, and in the end, they turned into corpses and scattered on the ground before they could even scream. Jun Changshao, who was about to go to another withered area, suddenly stopped and frowned. "This aura is a bit strange," the system said. "It's different from the martial arts system of the Falling Star continent." Whoosh! Jun Changshao quickly turned back. When he came to the cave where he took the treasure, he saw dozens of withered corpses scattered around. He said in a low voice, "Soul race?" The system said, "The kid you saved just now is not among them." Jun Changshao said, "He killed them." As he spoke, he had fully released his spiritual sense and instantly covered an area of 500 miles. But he did not find Dai Lu. Patriarch. At this moment, the spy's voice sounded in his ear. "According to our investigation, the withered areas that have recently appeared in the southeast have one thing in common." "What is it?" "There will always be one person who will appear at the scene of the crime in advance. Who? According to our investigation, this person was once a disciple of the Spirit Spring Sect, and later joined Dai Lu of the Sacred Spring Sect. Jun Changshao sat on a boulder next to him, lit up an electronic cigarette, took a deep breath, and said, "So, this guy is the target I'm looking for?" The system said, "I knew it. This kid's aptitude is mediocre. How could he become so strong in such a short time?" "When did you say that?" "I just said it." "Fuck you." Jun Changshao stood up, spat out a circle of smoke and sneered. "Kid, you've been exposed. You can escape for a while, but how can you escape for a lifetime?" Whoosh, the mechanical armed wings spread out, turned into a stream of light, and flew quickly in the southeast province. His spiritual sense spread crazily in all directions, completely carpet-searching. The soul race in Dai Lu's body surprised Jun Changshao, but since he found out, he must find him as soon as possible and eliminate the potential threat that could threaten the continent in the cradle. Save the world. He was serious. Whoosh, whoosh. In the sky, Dai Lu turned into a stream of green light, moving forward at an extremely fast speed that made others panic. After being tortured by the Night Emperor in the southern Barren state, only a year had passed, and he had broken through to the Emperor stage. This speed of growth was indeed astonishing. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Soul roared in his heart. That guy is about to catch up. Damn it. Dai Lu broke down. I just killed some people who wanted to kill me. Is there a need to chase me so desperately? Who told you to unleash the devouring power so recklessly? Soul roared. Any expert with a bit of strength will feel that there's a problem. These two brothers obviously did not understand that Jun Changshao appeared in the southeast province to investigate the devouring power. Now that he was targeted, it was impossible to escape. No. Soul sensed the energy fluctuations coming at him at an extremely fast speed and said, "He'll catch up soon." Whoosh, as soon as he finished speaking, a stream of light flew over from behind the curve, and then directly hung on the path that he had to pass through. Screech. Dai Lu slammed on the brakes, and his face was extremely ugly. He was clearly running fast enough, but he was still easily caught up. Was this the huge gap in strength? I can't accept this. I really can't accept this. Kid, Jun Changshao said, there should be something unclean in your body. I'm going to take it out today. Something unclean? Could it be soul? How did he know about this? Jun Changshao, Dai Lu said angrily. I don't understand what you're talking about. Jun Changshao carried the magically modified vacuum cleaner on his back and said, although the soul race can help you quickly improve your strength, they're just treating you like a puppet. Today, I'll help you escape from the sea of bitterness. Help me escape from the sea of bitterness? Dai Lu laughed. Then, his eyes flashed with grief and indignation as he shouted, isn't it because of you that I'm in this state today? Smack. Jun Changshao appeared in front of him and slapped him hard. He said, what does it have to do with me that the soul race is residing in your body? Chapter 924. Brother Greenscarf's fate had nothing to do with Jun Changshao. After all, he had nothing to do with the soul race entering his body. However, for Dai LV to bear such a grudge and not hesitate to become stronger, it was definitely related to him. To be exact, Dai Lu had worked hard to cultivate after awakening his devouring power. His current strength was partly due to Jun Changshao and partly due to Yi Xingchen. But this was a good ending. Dai Lu lay in the deep pit on the ground. His bones were about to fall apart. This man was too strong. He was not even an ant in front of him. I can't accept this. Dai Lu clenched his fists. Kid, Soul said, this person is a half-step saint. You have no chance of winning against him. If you want to live, give me your body. Can you defeat him if I give it to you? Dai Lu asked in his mind. Yes. Soul's tone was firm. Dai Lu forced a bitter smile and said, I know you've always wanted to take over my body. I also know that I have some value and can be used by you. Although he had been deceived by the old man, Brother Greenscarf was not stupid. He knew some things even if he did not say them out loud. If giving you my body can help me take revenge for the destruction of my sect, then take it. After saying this, Dai Lu completely relaxed. He allowed the devouring power to take control of his body and devour his thoughts. There was no hope of escape. There was no hope of revenge. He was willing to give his life to the Abyss Devil to fulfill his long-cherished wish. Whoosh whoosh, the powerful grassland green attribute turned into rays of light and enveloped Dai Lu like silk. Is this the power of the soul race? Jun Changshao, who was standing in the air, did not activate the vacuum because he was very curious. What was so special about this race that had caused a war between emperors in ancient times? Bang! After a while, the green energy that enveloped him suddenly exploded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Streams of light flew and waves of air spread. Ta! At the center of the whistling energy, the green-haired Dai Lu stood up. His originally weak face became cold, and his body was surrounded by green energy currents. Crack! Dai Lu clenched his fists and said coldly, "Although this body is still very weak, it can still allow me to exert some of my power. Killing a half-step Wusheng is no problem at all." "Hey," Jun Changshao, who was suspended in the air, asked, "What's your super number?" "Brat." Dai Lu raised his head and said with a sinister smile, "If it weren't for your sudden appearance, that brat might not have been willing to offer up his body. So in return," he raised his hand and green energy quickly gathered in his palm. "It's better for him to die." Boom! The gathered energy turned into a beam of light and blasted down from above. Because the power was extremely terrifying, space was instantly torn apart. Boom! The green beam of light exploded in midair. Whoosh! Jun Changshao walked out from the rolling clouds. The true yang sword in his hand shone brightly. He smiled and said, "Your strength is not bad. You deserve this seat to fight seriously." Dai Lu frowned slightly. His attack was extremely powerful, but it couldn't do anything to him. This patriarch of the sect of all times who rose in such a short time was still quite strong. This was also good. Today, he would sacrifice him to the heavens and announce to the falling star continent that the soul race was back. Whoosh! While he was thinking, Jun Changshao had already rushed down. The true yang sword cut through the void and immediately spread out a dense sword energy. Ling Jian's one-word sword formula had been comprehended to the extreme. The sword energy that he released was completely invisible to the naked eye. Bang! 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 Dai Lu, who was controlled by the soul race, gathered green spiritual energy in his palms and shattered all the sword energy with a domineering force. However, he was shocked in his heart. From the strength contained in the sword energy, he instantly judged that this kid's strength was definitely not an ordinary half-step Wusheng. It was even possible that he had reached a level infinitely close to Wusheng's level. Shua! Shua! Jun Changshao attacked again. The sword energy that he released was even more powerful than before. Dai Lu's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly dodged to the side, and then took the opportunity to wave his palm. Green glow formula. Whoosh whoosh. Green energy suddenly gathered in front of him. At the same time, the vitality of the plants in the area was immediately drawn and quickly withered as they lost their energy. Kid! After accumulating energy, Dai Lu pushed his palms forward and shouted coldly, "Go to hell!" Whoosh whoosh! The energy that absorbed the vitality of the surroundings and was greatly strengthened immediately rushed over like a cannonball. This force was so strong that even the space in the distance was distorted by the shock. A battle of this level was definitely rare in the Starfall continent. Unfortunately, there was no audience to be surprised. Facing the incoming green energy, Jun Changxiao's right hand, which was holding the true yang sword, quickly turned into steel and slashed at the opponent. Whoosh! The incomparably cold sword energy, supported by the combat form of the mechanical armed wings, ruthlessly tore the green energy apart. Then there were two boom-boom sounds, shaking the space and causing a large area to collapse. Dai Lu, whose move was broken, was dumbfounded. This green glow formula of his could kill half-step saints in the Starfall continent like cutting grass. Why was it so weak in front of this kid? Because he was a cheater. Jun Changxiao stood proudly with his sword and said, "If that's all you can do, I don't mind letting you get a boxed meal now." Dai Lv's eyes were filled with anger as he said, "Kid, Your strength has surprised me. But don't be arrogant. Wait until I cultivate for a while more. Then I'll definitely trample you beneath my feet. From his tone, it seemed like he was going to escape. He had already analyzed that the strength of the patriarch of the sect of all times was not below him. If they really fought, he might not be at an advantage. Therefore, he might as well leave and absorb energy without restraint. When he was stronger, he would destroy this sect, and then plunder the entire continent. Whoosh! He retreated as soon as he said so. However, just as he ran a few dozen meters, he heard a cold shout from behind. Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, a desolate and heavy aura suddenly erupted in the sky. Dai Lu hurriedly looked up, and saw dozens of huge dragon elephant phantoms appear, and then ruthlessly suppress him. No! Boom! 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 The ground in this area suddenly trembled violently, and the rising dust could be said to cover the sky and the sun. What's going on? The martial artists thousands of miles away felt the movement, and all looked up. They saw a gurgling spiritual energy ripple over, causing the space to almost distort. There are top experts fighting. Heavens, this seems to be just the momentum of the aftershocks, but it can actually distort space. Could it be Wuxia? In the center of the tremor, the dust gradually dispersed. A huge pit appeared in his field of vision, and Dai Lu was in the deepest part of it, dripping with blood. Swoosh! Jun Changshao landed, raised the vacuum cleaner, and said, "It wasn't easy for me to find you. How can I let you slip away under my nose?" Dai Lu's injuries were too serious, and he could no longer speak. Pa! The flat vacuum mouth was pressed against his forehead. Jun Changshao imitated the tone of a man who swore to become the pirate king and said, "Third gear." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A strong suction force suddenly erupted, and the devouring power in his body and Dai Lu's head of green hair were all sucked in. Pa! He turned off the vacuum cleaner. Jun Changshao's consciousness merged into the vacuum cleaner, and saw the green energy crazily crashing against the barrier. He smiled and said, "This thing is indeed effective against the soul race." Wah! At this moment, the seriously injured and bald Dai Lu spat out a mouthful of blood, and his turbid eyes gradually became clear. "Kid." Jun Changshao squatted down and smiled innocently. "Your bones are exquisite, and you are a one-in-a-million martial arts genius, so I've decided to give you another chance. Are you willing to join the sect of all times, and become a disciple?" "No," Dai Lu said. "I know you want to say that you are very grateful." Jun Changshao carried him and said, "Then follow me back to the sect. What's there to be grateful for?" "I want to say that I'm not willing." Chapter 925. My name is Dai Lu. I'm currently in a sect that bears a grudge against me from the moment I appeared. I'm even being watched by a group of disciples like a monkey. I'm panicking right now. What should I do? Waiting online. Urgent. Li Fei stepped on a happy football and smiled. Patriarch, is this the new junior brother? To be personally brought back by the patriarch, he definitely had real skills, and could definitely take a beating. He looks a little familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere before. I think so too. Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the others were discussing. Although Dai Lu's injuries were quite serious, he could still think. He could still hear everyone's discussion, and almost spat out blood. In the past, he was a disciple of the Holy Spring sect, and had once fought with Yi Xingchen. Did he not have any sense of presence? Patriarch, is he a Buddhist cultivator? Lu Wancher asked. The little girl had this judgment because Dai Lu's green hair had been sucked away by the vacuum cleaner. If a worker wants to do a good job, he must first benefit from it. The current Brother Green Scarf had become Brother Bald. If he joined the sect of all times and became a disciple, he would benefit from various martial arts facilities. Even if he became bald, he would also become stronger. Li Qingyang said, Patriarch, his injuries are very serious. Do you want to treat him first? No need. Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, lock him in the prison first. Although he forcefully brought Dai Lu back, if he was not willing to join the sect of all times, he definitely would not force him. Go Sheng was very principled and particular about certain things. Mad wolf is a kind of attitude. Mad wolf is not restrained. Mad wolf, mad wolf. In the prison, Zhao Daodu leisurely hummed a song. As the #1 prisoner of the sect of all times, although he rarely went out, he could hear the dynamic music from the training ground every day. Over time he learned it. After being locked up for so long, the only thing he could use to relieve his boredom was singing. Creak! Suddenly the prison door opened. Zhao Daodu hurriedly shut his mouth and subconsciously shrank into a corner. It was not mealtime yet. Since the door had been opened, there was only one possibility. A new cellmate was coming. As expected, Xiao Ziji grabbed Dai Lu and walked over. Then, he placed him on the wooden bed and turned around to leave. Zhao Daodu didn't go over immediately. Instead, he stayed in the corner vigilantly and thought to himself, someone who can be locked up in the sect of all times must be a big shot. Although this brother's cultivation was ordinary, his cellmates were either demon kings or half-saints. The worst was the Nine Venoms Palace Master, who was as beautiful as a flower. After he was released from prison, he would definitely be able to brag in front of others for the rest of his life. A few minutes passed. Zhao Daodu found that the guy was still lying down. Judging from the frequency of his breathing, it seemed that he was seriously injured. So he went over and confirmed that he was really injured. He then sat on the bed and said, "Friend, how did you get in?" Dai Lu remained silent. His injuries were very serious. All his meridians were damaged. This wasn't important. What was important was that no matter how he tried to activate it, he couldn't activate the devouring power. That guy who called himself Soul had also disappeared. Gone. Everything was gone. Dai Lu, who was lying flat on the bed, couldn't stop his tears from flowing down. All these years, hatred had been his motivation. The devouring power was the foundation that made him infinitely stronger. Now that he had lost it, he was back to square one. God! Dai Lu screamed in his heart. Why did you do this to me? Why are you still crying? Zhao Daodu shook his head and comforted him. Friend, it's normal for people to have ups and downs in life. Since you've become a prisoner, the only thing you can do is to treat it normally. Look at me. I've been locked up for a few years, but I'm still not happy. Come. Sing loudly with me. The mad wolf is an attitude. The mad wolf is rising and falling. Dai Lu thought to himself, is this guy crazy? After the #1 prisoner, Zhao Daodu, became the palace master of Nine Poisons Temple, he finally welcomed a new prisoner. However, it could be seen that the other party was a little pessimistic. So in order to not make him sad and give up on himself, he sat beside him and fed him chicken soup when he had time. When I was first locked up, I had the thought of dying. But later on I figured it out. If I die, won't I have nothing left? So I have to live, even if I have to live without dignity. There's no smooth sailing in a person's life. If you don't experience great storms, how can you become a real man? A withered flower can't make a whole spring. A setback can't make a whole life desolate. When you fall to the bottom, don't despair. Raise your head, and you'll see a brilliant starry sky. Under the comforting words of chicken soup for the soul, Dai Lu's injuries were getting better every day. If there was a brick next to him, he would definitely pick it up and let him shut his noisy mouth. In the study, Jun Changshao merged into the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Master, Arya, who was holding a small leather whip and whipping the power of the thunder calamity, stopped and smiled. Why are you here? To send you a prisoner. As Jun Changshao spoke, he took out the vacuum cleaner. Prisoner? Arya's eyes lit up. Whoosh! The vacuum cleaner was opened. A ball of green attributes was like a devil that had been sealed for a long time, frantically fleeing outside. In the end, it slammed into the space barrier and bounced back. Arya was quite surprised. What a violent attribute. Can it be purified? Jun Changshao asked. Pa! Arya whipped the green attribute, causing it to instantly turn into a human form. She smiled sinisterly. As long as it's taken into the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda, there's nothing I can't purify. Master! She stared with her eyes wide open. This guy isn't an energy attribute. It's a creature with a thinking system. That's right, Jun Changshao said. Wow. Arya was surprised. This is the first time I've seen a creature with such an attribute. Damn it. The soul turned into a human form, holding the arm that was whipped. He said angrily, Jun Changshao, you'd better let me go quickly or else. Whoosh. Whoosh. Before he could finish, red ropes suddenly darted over, binding him from his ankles to his legs, until his whole body was tied up. He was hung in the air in a U shape. Arya walked over and said, This is my territory. Don't be arrogant. As she spoke, she raised the sexy leather whip, and was about to whip him wildly. However, Jun Changshao stopped her and said, If you cooperate and answer some questions, I can consider letting you go. Humph. The soul sneered. I don't know anything. Trying to get information? No way. You're a man. Jun Changshao gave Arya a look and said, Treat him well. Yes, master. Arya couldn't wait any longer. Her small face suddenly turned demonic, and then she raised the leather whip, and began to whip him wildly. Are you going to talk or not? Smack, smack, smack. Are you going to talk or not? Smack, smack, smack. Ah. Under the whipping, the soul let out a heart-wrenching roar. The humanoid thunder punishment force hiding in the corner trembled in fear. They had a deep understanding of the feeling of being whipped. The soul-subduing whip had the effect of whipping the depths of the soul. So no matter if it was a creature or an attribute, it couldn't withstand it at all. Still not talking? Arya took out a lit candle and directly attacked. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Ah. Are you going to talk or not? Ah. Say no. The soul finally couldn't take the torture and roared with a ferocious expression. He didn't ask, what should I say? Yeah. Arya took back the candle and said, Master, you haven't asked yet. Chapter 926. Jun Changshao had a lot of questions to ask this soul race. For example, after the Battle of the Gods, why was he still alive? And why was he residing in Dai Lu's body? Although I was severely injured by the Great Desolation Martial Emperor, my soul was not destroyed. I have always been lurking in the Falling Star continent, looking for a suitable body to occupy. By chance, I met Dai Lu, who was on the verge of death, and sensed his powerful resentment, so I successfully sneaked into his body. Soul explained in a trembling voice. So obedient? That's right. Arya next to him held the soul-subduing whip in her left hand, and the soul-subduing candle in her right. It could be seen that after a short period of training, this guy who claimed to be the owner of this body was completely obedient. Jun Changshao said, Are the soul race shapeless? We soul race have an innate ability called soul transformation. We can release the soul form, and then reside in the body of other living beings, Soul said. Seeing that this guy was so cooperative, Arya put away the tools, and a harmless smile appeared on her face. Soul heaved a sigh of relief, but there was more sadness in his heart. After all, he was a third soul overlord, and he actually ended up in such a miserable state. If the power of thunder punishment knew what he was thinking, they would definitely look at him with disdain. Was a living being from a mortal plane very powerful? We came from the upper realm, but we were still whipped and tortured. Did we ever show off? Were we ever proud? In other words, you have a physical body, and you only transformed your soul into a void to invade the Falling Star continent. Jun Changshao said. That's right. His soul trembled as he spoke. Jun Changshao said, Do you have any martial arts resources or martial arts manuals in your soul race plane? Or ores, crystal cores, medicinal herbs, and so on? This was a very important question. No. Soul said. The plane we live in is on the verge of being abandoned, so we keep devouring other planes to strengthen ourselves. Fuck. Jun Changshao thought. Array Emperor, you lied to me. He insisted that he save the world, because he could enter the soul race continent to rob, and then strengthen his sect. But there was nothing, so what was the point of entering? Forget it. It was fine not to save the Falling Star continent. Of course. Hun said proudly. Although the spirit continent is poor, we the Hun race are good at plundering. We have countless martial arts resources. In a barren plain, relying on one's innate ability to frantically plunder, so that one could survive and grow stronger, was definitely something to be proud of. Really? Jun Changxiao's eyes blazed. As a member of the Falling Star continent, how could they stay out of trouble? They had to fight for their home. They had to go to the plane called the Soul Continent and cause trouble. Seeing the flickering light in that fellow's eyes, Soul shuddered and thought to himself, I have a bad feeling. The living beings of the spirit continent. Motherfucker, we've been tricked by you. Area. Now that he knew everything he wanted to know, Jun Changxiao instructed, I'll leave this guy to you. Purify all the unclean things on him as soon as possible. No problem. Area summoned the soul-subduing whip again and laughed sinisterly. Little cutie, I will train you well. Han was so shocked that his mind trembled. He hurriedly roared, Jun Changxiao, you said you'd let me go. You can't keep your word. I said so, Jun Changxiao said, but not now. You, smack, smack, smack. Ah. Jun Changxiao left, leaving behind a lowly holding a whip and frantically whipping a tied-up figure. The camera switched back and forth. It was very picturesque. In the cell, Dai Lu sat on the plank bed expressionlessly. Even if a beam of sunlight shone on his face through the iron window, he was still unmoved. Soul was crazily trained by Area in the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda. And now he seemed to have lost his soul. Relying on the devouring power, Dai Lu broke through to the level of Wu Huang. But now that he had lost the former's support, the future was simply dark for him. What's the value of me living in this world? He murmured, and his mood was extremely low. Zhao Daodu sat next to him and comforted him. If you're sad, try to look up at the sky. You'll forget it when you look at it. It's so big, it will definitely tolerate all your grievances. Dai Lu had no strength at all now. Otherwise, he would have knocked this guy's head against the wall, so that he would not feed him any nutritious chicken soup. Creak. Suddenly the cell door opened. 1 He and 2 He walked in from the outside, and then placed all the delicious dishes on the table. The aroma of the dishes immediately filled the entire cell. Zhao Daodu sniffed gently, and his saliva immediately flowed out. Dai Lu, who was depressed, was unmoved. His life was already gloomy, and he was not interested in anything. Jun Changxiao walked in, sat in front of the table and said, Have you thought it through? Dai Lu lowered his head and said, I won't join the sect of all times, and I won't become your disciple. He clenched his fists and added another time limit. Forever. What a backbone. At this moment, Brother Green Scarf was a real man. The sect of all times has always been virtuous, and we will never force people to do things against their will. After eating this meal, you can leave at any time, Jun Changxiao said. Jun Patriarch. Zhao Daodu raised his hand and said, I'm willing to join the sect of all times, and I'm willing to be at your beck and call. As he spoke, he had already sat down at the table. Scram. Xiao. Zhao Daodu instantly retreated, and then curled up in a corner, feeling wronged. Why are all the new prisoners treated better than me? After eating this meal, I can leave. That's right. Jun Changxiao said seriously. I'll also give you a pill to help you recover from your injuries. From now on, you can jump as high as the sea, and fly as high as the sky. Dai Lu's eyes were filled with astonishment. He looked at the steaming hot food on the table, and tried to move his body over. Swoosh. He sat down. Lu Wansher made a lot of dishes, and many of them were made in the cooking competition and the God of Cookery competition. So someone who could eat them was really lucky. Dai Lu hesitated for a long time, but still picked up his chopsticks. But just as he was about to eat, he raised his head with difficulty and said seriously, Garlic. Zhao Daodu, give it to him. Yes. Erhe handed over a few cloves of garlic. Only then did Dai Lu start to eat, and the more he ate, the more tears flowed down. It was not because the food was too delicious, but because in order to survive, he had to compromise in front of his enemy. How painful was that? Gulp. Looking at that guy wolfing down the food, Zhao Daodu, who was squatting behind, drooled and said secretly, Brother, leave a bite for me, don't eat it all. Pa. After a while, the food on the table was all eaten by Dai Lu. He put down his chopsticks and said, Can I leave now? Jun Changxiao's eyes were filled with surprise. Lu Wansher's dishes were all her specialties. Was this guy not shocked? Could it be that this guy couldn't be tempted by delicious food? Looking at it now, Dai Lu was indeed not shocked by the food. He was just thinking about whether he could leave now that he was full. People with integrity would always be firm in their thoughts. People like the Purple King, Zhen Dejuan, and the others could only swallow their pride for a bowl of fried rice. Kid, Jun Changshao said, when we went to Qingyang City, if you had agreed to be recruited, you would have been the second disciple. Now that you have rejected it again, don't regret it in the future. I, Dai Lu, have never regretted anything in my life, Dai Lu said seriously. All right. Jun Changshao threw over a healing pill, then pointed at the prison door and said, eat it, and you can leave now. Looking at the pitch-black pill, Dai Lv wondered if there was poison in it. However, if he wanted to kill him, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Swish, Dai Lu picked up the pill and swallowed it without hesitation. After the pill took effect, the damaged meridians were instantly repaired, and he became energetic. He was stunned. Ever since he obtained the devouring power, he had been injured while cultivating, and he had also recovered quickly. However, he had never seen such a situation where he recovered so quickly from a serious injury. Did he eat a divine medicine? Jun Changshao said, you can leave now. Swish. Dai Lu, who had recovered from his injuries, got up and walked to the prison cell. When he saw the light again after he went out, he took a deep breath. Jun Changshao, he said with his back to the prison cell, our enmity will not be eliminated because of this. Sooner or later I, Dai Lu, will seek justice for the destroyed Spirit Spring Sect. You have no chance. Jun Changshao paused and added a time limit. Forever. The green mountains do not change, and the clear water flows forever. Dai Lu said, goodbye. Swish on this day, Dai Lu, who was caught in the sect of all times, flew out, setting a precedent for escaping unscathed. In his words, he had never regretted anything in his life. Patriarch, Jiangyu was puzzled. Are you letting him go just like that? Everyone has their own aspirations. You can't force them. Jun Changxiao's face was sanctimonious, but he was roaring in his heart. Delicacies can't tempt him. Healing pills can't either. Is this guy a devil? At first, this guy wanted to use delicacies to tempt Dai Lu to stay willingly. In the end, it was obvious that it had no effect. So he took out healing pills to show him how magical they were and decided to stay. However, he did not follow the script. The system complained. Finally, someone has broken the sect of all times' law of fragrance. Dai Lu really left. He was not subdued by delicacies, nor was he subdued by healing pills. He was a real man. Although he did not follow the script, Jun Changshao did not particularly care. After all, the kid's soul had been absorbed, so the potential risk was eliminated. However, he was still a young Wu Huang. It was a pity to let him go just like that. Why don't I send Yi Xingchen over and catch that guy again? He had clearly said that he would let him go. If he went back on his word and caught him, it would be the same as confirming his shamelessness. Conflicted. The system said. Does the host need to confirm his shamelessness? Isn't this obvious? Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, that makes sense. Xingchen, pay you. Go catch that guy who just flew away. If he resists, then cripple him first. Whoosh! Yi Xingchen turned into a streak of light and headed west at an extremely fast speed. The system. Sorry, it's my fault. Back to Dai Lu. This man who broke the sect of all times' law. After confirming that he really came out, his eyes were filled with disbelief. Jun Changshao. Dai Lu clenched his fists and shouted angrily, don't think that I will be grateful to you just because you let me go. I will take revenge for the destruction of the Spirit Spring Sect sooner or later. His voice rippled through the sky. How heart-wrenching. Whoosh! At this moment, Yi Xingchen caught up and stopped not far away from him. He said indifferently, trash. Yi Xingchen. Seeing this man who made him lose his appetite for food and drink, Dai Lu's eyes suddenly erupted with intense anger. The humiliation that Jun Changshao brought to him was nothing more than being trampled in the beginning of the game. The damage to his dignity that Paeania brought to him was unforgettable. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, Dai Lu's first stage Wuhuang cultivation fully erupted. Although he did not have the support of the devouring power, he still seemed very imposing. Yi Xingchen said in surprise. He actually broke through Wuhuang. Dai Lu angrily rushed over. Monstrous anger spread all over his body, making him seem like an enraged lion. Then, Yi Xingchen dodged and directly hit him with a swipe. Bang! The ground cracked and dust flew. Yi Xingchen slowly landed and hung 6 feet away from Dai Lu, who was trapped in the pit. He said coldly, "Even if you have broken through Wuhuang, you will always be trash in front of me." You pfft. Dai Lu spat out a mouthful of blood and clenched the soil tightly with both hands. During this period, he had been absorbing flowers and trees in the southeast province to cultivate. He thought that after breaking through Wuhuang, he would be able to trample this guy under his feet. In the end, he was completely defeated, even more so than in the southern Baron province. I've been working very hard. Why can't I beat him? Why am I always being abused? Could it be that this was his fate? Recalling the past and the scenes of being humiliated by Yi Xingchen on various occasions, Dai Lu suddenly burst into tears. He cried like a child. He also had the life of a protagonist. In the novel, he worked the hardest to cultivate, and was the best at explaining the spirit of martial arts. However, he was always defeated by the reincarnated Great Emperor style. It was really sad and wronged. Plop. On the martial arts field, Dai Lu was thrown down. Jun Changshao walked over and said with a smile, "We meet again." Dai Lu roared angrily. "You said you would let me go. Why did you send him to catch me?" Jun Changshao said, "I did let you go, but you didn't take care of yourself, and were caught by my sect's disciples. Who can you blame for this?" Dai Lv lay paralyzed on the ground, his body spread out, and he said resolutely, "If you want to kill or torture me, do as you please." He could see that this guy had no intention of preventing him from leaving, so he could only give up. At most, he would be a good man again after 18 years. "Kid, I'll give you 2 choices. Either you join the sect of all times and become a disciple, or you stay in the dungeon with Daodu as your companion," Jun Changshao said. Dai Lu said firmly, "I won't join my enemy's sect. Never." Creak. Plop. Creak. Zhao Daodu, who was licking the empty plate, saw Dai Lu being thrown in again. He broke down and said, "Brother, you ate too cleanly. You didn't even leave any oil for me. Whenever you think it through, the sect of all times will welcome you at any time." Jun Changshao's voice came from outside. Zhao Daoda shouted, "Jun Patriarch, I've thought it through. I'm willing to join the sect of all times and work for you." Jun Changshao ignored him and returned to Dragon Head Peak. On the way, the system said, "This Dai Lu is very unyielding. It will probably be difficult to make him submit. Host, you can either kill him or release him. Why keep him locked up? There must be something different about the soul race residing in this child. I can't kill him. I can only lock him up and find a chance to tame him," Jun Changshao said. Phew. Returning to the study, he glanced at the egg that had been incubated for 5 days and muttered to himself, "I'm a bit worried right now. Is there still a soul race residing in a martial artist's body on the Falling Star continent?" "Patriarch." Li Luochio walked over and said, "I just received news that 4 sixth-rate sects and 1 fifth-rate sect in the eastern boundless state were all wiped out overnight." "Who did it?" Jun Changshao said. It was very rare for several sects or even sects to be wiped out at the same time. Naturally, it would attract his attention. Li Luochio said, "There were scouts from the sect near the location of the incident. They discovered a group of masked men in black robes in the forest." Masked men in black robes? Jun Changshao immediately thought of the mysterious organization that had repeatedly caused trouble for the sect. It might be the Darkness Sect. Ever since I went to Maple Valley, this mysterious organization hasn't appeared again. Could it be that they've thought it through and don't want to be enemies with me anymore? Xiaomu also sent news that the Taishan Shengzong has already started fighting with the Demon Gate's remnants at Raging Waves Lake, Li Luochio said. Jun Changshao didn't care about this. Instead, he asked, Can we use all of our intelligence network to find the mysterious organization hiding in the dark? This, Li Luoqiu said. It's a bit difficult. Those masked men in black robes were too hidden. Even with their current intelligence network, they had only encountered them once by accident. Patriarch. At this time, Jiang Yu walked into the study and said, I want to take a few days off to go out. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. This elder had inherited the Yuan spirit body and could easily spy on the high-level formations in the planar battlefield. It shouldn't be a problem for him to investigate the masked men in black robes. Moreover, he was quite strong. It was much safer and more professional than the scouts. Elder Jiang wants to go out to look for your family? Yes. Approved. Jun Changxiao said. However, while you're looking for your family, pay attention to the masked men in black robes. It would be best if you can find their base. Yes. Jiang Ye accepted the patriarch's arrangement. Now he had enough understanding of the Yuan spirit body and had long planned to go out to look for his sister. The Starfall continent was so big and had 9 provinces, so it was destined to take some time. It wasn't a bad idea to investigate the Darkness Sect. The next day, Jiang Yu was ready. Just as he was about to leave, Li Qingyang came to his residence and said, Elder Jiang, can you help me find someone while you're at it? Who? Li Qingyang handed over a piece of paper and said, her name and the place where she used to live are written on it. So thorough? Jiang Yu glanced at the name written on the paper and said, you're looking for a woman? Yes. Leave it to me. That, Li Qingyang said. You just need to find where she lives now. Jiang Yu nodded, and then flew out of the sect of all times. Only when the other party disappeared did Li Qingyang retract his gaze. Then, he turned and saw a large face appear in his field of vision. He hurriedly took a few steps back and said, Patriarch, why are you here? Jun Changxiao put his hands in his sleeves and said, if you miss her, go find her. It's boring to dilly-dally. Li Qingyang said bitterly, she's deliberately avoiding me. If I go find her, she'll only go further away. Sigh. Jun Changxiao said, I really don't understand the love of you young people. Chapter 927. Li Qingyang had a lover. This was mentioned when he became a disciple of the Iron Bone sect. A few years had passed, but he did not look for her because she thought that her status was not worthy of the #1 genius of Qingyang City, so she deliberately avoided him. This was probably the furthest distance in the world. Not looking for her did not mean that he had forgotten her. Li Qingyang only hoped to appear in front of her after he had absolute strength, to tell this world that only he was worthy of her, and not her. Although after becoming a disciple of the sect of all times, he gradually became the head chief, and even became passionate about civil engineering, his heart to become a powerhouse had never wavered. Work hard. Jun Changxiao patted his disciple's shoulder and said, until one day, you step on 7 colored clouds and marry her in front of everyone. 7 colored clouds? Li Qingyang was confused. Jun Changxiao did not explain. He returned to Dragon Head Peak and entered the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda again. Smack, smack, smack. The sound of a leather whip was heard rhythmically. Ah, the soul that was bound by the rope let out a heart-wrenching scream. This kind of whipping that came from the soul was simply too painful, and the unclean things in its body were also purified bit by bit. It was hard to imagine that one of the 9 soul clans that caused chaos in the ancient times 10,000 years ago would be treated so inhumanely. Master, Arya said as she whipped it, there are a lot of unclean things in this fellow's body. I'm afraid I'll have to purify it for a few months. Take your time, there's no rush. Since the target had been caught, Jun Changxiao did not care about the purification time. The soul had completely collapsed. If this kind of torture from the soul continued for a few months, it would definitely be worse than death. Don't forget to train those with thunder attributes. Jun Changxiao said. Li Qingyang had the body of thunder punishment. Since the thunder energy came from the upper realm, it must be powerful. If he absorbed it, there would definitely be a qualitative improvement. Okay. Arya looked over and hooked her finger like a queen. Get over here. The humanoid thunder punishment elemental monsters trembled as they walked over. Then, they stood in a row, and miserably allowed the soul-suppressing whip to whip them. Although it was painful, after a long time, they actually felt a bit happy. After observing the soul being trained, Jun Changxiao returned to the outside world, and continued to cultivate in the spirit-gathering formation as usual. Then, he quietly waited for the incubation date to arrive. After Li Qingyang adjusted his mentality, he led Xiao Ziji, Long Xiang, and the others into the stronghold for construction. Without Page to act as the excavator, the efficiency was not particularly high. Jun Changxiao didn't personally supervise the construction, so he started his daily life of eating, sleeping, and cultivating. Time passed. When he walked out of the spirit-gathering formation and confirmed that his understanding of the 5 elements had improved again, he went to the study. The incubator had entered the last 10 minutes of its successful incubation. With so many crystallic nuclei, there must be an awesome contract beast. Jun Changxiao prayed. Ding! 10 minutes later, the incubation time ended. Huff huff, the cloud-like attributes that existed inside the incubator gradually converged. Suddenly, a water blue pattern appeared on the white egg, as if it was some kind of ancient restriction. Jun Changxiao said, "It's the same structure as the Mystic 32 formations." Previously, on the round stone platform in the dimensional battlefield, a similar restriction appeared. Was there a certain connection between the two? Crack. Suddenly, there was the sound of the egg cracking. The egg in the incubator began to crack according to the water blue pattern. As more and more cracks appeared, beams of blue light spurted out. It's coming out. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. Bang! Suddenly the steamed egg exploded. The blue light was as dazzling as the sun. He hurriedly blocked his vision with his wrist and said in shock, "This formation must be awesome." After flickering for a while, the light began to weaken. Go Sheng pressed his arm down and looked at the incubator. His expression instantly stiffened. A little fellow the size of an adult's fist appeared in his field of vision. It had 2 chicken-like claws, a pair of chicken-like wings, and a chicken-like tail feathers. It had a pointy mouth and a big red crown on its head. That's right. It didn't look like a chicken, it was a chicken, and it was a rooster. If there was a difference, it would be that other than the red crown, its feathers were water blue. It looked like a ghost in the shape of a chicken. This is the opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai? This is a beast from the upper realm? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched violently. The system said, "The color is very strange. It might be related to the mutation." Big brother. Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed as he roared. "Is this a problem with the color? This is a problem with the breed. I spent so many resources in 30 days, and I hatched a chicken." Don't panic. The system said, "Maybe it's just the appearance, but in fact..." Oh, at this moment the pocket-sized little fellow raised its head and cried out. Its tone and voice were clearly that of a rooster. System. Ah! Jun Changxiao hugged his head and said, "It's really a rooster." At this moment, the water-blue rooster stood in a posture that didn't recognize anyone. It spread its wings and hugged them together. It said proudly, "Do you dislike this young master?" Fuck. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. He was already used to seeing beasts speak human language, but a rooster actually hugged its hands with its wings. This was too cartoonish. Also, this young master called himself. This fellow was a little arrogant. Jun Changxiao opened the incubator and directly grabbed it in his hand. He said coldly, "Remember, call me master." Humph. The little rooster said coldly, "To be able to become my master, you can be considered lucky." Damn. This little fellow was not just a little arrogant, it was super arrogant. A rooster actually dares to be so arrogant. "Do you believe that I won't fry you right now?" Jun Changxiao said fiercely. "Impudent." The rooster said angrily, "This young master is a descendant of the vermilion bird. You call me a rooster? You are insulting my bloodline and trampling on my dignity." Jun Changxiao, "You look like this, you are insulting yourself." Wait a minute. Descendant of the vermilion bird? In Jun Changxiao's understanding, the vermilion bird of the 4 spirits was called the vermilion bird. Could it be that this little fellow was a descendant of a divine beast? That couldn't be right. Even if it was a descendant, it couldn't have genetically mutated to look like a chicken. Jun Changshao said, "Little fellow, you really know how to gild yourself. Why don't you say that Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise are your uncles?" The little rooster said with a surprised look. "How did you know?" "I damn. Not only was this fellow a little arrogant, he also knew how to brag. The 4 spirit beasts were all his relatives." Shwa. Jun Changshao grabbed it and brought it to the cafeteria. He placed it on the chopping board and shouted, Do, hurry up and see if there is a way to stir-fry a rooster in the Chinese cookbook." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.